Hello and welcome to Discovery Days by Actual Tech Media. On this event, you'll learn about products that can help you to streamline, secure, and protect cloud, IT, and business operations. You'll hear from experts at Open Systems, NetEnrich, Airkit, Ping Identity, Rapid7, Nutanix, ArcServe, Sios, Veeam, Thycotic, Alkyra, Clumio, Zerto, Duo, Unitrends, and Okta. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got an awesome Discovery Day event lined up for you today. If you haven't been on the Discovery Days event before, the format is that you'll hear from some of the most innovative companies in enterprise technology today. Each company will present for a short 12-minute segment. Then you'll be prompted with a poll that says, would you like to receive an invitation to the associated deep dive session for this solution, which is a 25-minute session taking place at a specific time over the next 2 days. It'll be a simple yes or no response. Of course, we hope that these solutions resonate with you, you see value and how these solutions can help you in your company, and that you'll respond with a yes. Once you do so, you'll get an invitation, again, to that deep dive session where you can see product demos and learn more about these solutions to get all your questions answered. Before we get started, just a few things that you should know about this event. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'll be serving as your moderator. Just like our MegaCast event series, we've got some awesome prizes lined up for this Discovery Day event. I'll be talking about those prizes as well as the requirements to be eligible for the drawings in just a moment. We want this to be an educational event, so we encourage your questions there in the questions box. And of course, we hope that you'll be responding to the poll questions after each of the presentations on today's Discovery Day event. Your responses to those poll questions are valuable to us and to our expert presenters. We also want this to be a social event. You can tweet directly from your console using the Twitter icon, and the hashtag for the event will be automatically appended. I'll be monitoring Twitter throughout the event, and of course, we appreciate you spreading the word about the Actual Tech Media Discovery Day series. We also have a number of resources there in your handouts tab. There's one resource handpicked by each of today's expert presenters, so I encourage you to check those out. I said we have some amazing prizes, and we do. We'll be giving out one iPhone 12 every 15 minutes during today's Day 1 Discovery Day event. This is the 128 gig model in your choice of color. That's right, I said it, one iPhone 12 every 15 minutes. You must be live in attendance to qualify, and I will be announcing the winner during the poll question after each presentation. All prize winners must be able to submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media. We will reach out to prize winners after the event via email. The full prize terms and conditions can be found there in the handouts tab, and all prize winners have the option to make a donation to our selected charities. Over the years, we've donated thousands of dollars to charity on behalf of lucky prize winners who have generously donated their prize value. We've done this also in partnership with the Gorilla Guide Book Club. You can download free educational IT books there in your audience console in the handouts tab. Just go to gorilla.guide or click the link in the handouts tab. I said we want this to be a social event. The hashtag for the event is ATM Discovery Days. And if you tweet from your console using the Twitter icon on the bottom of the screen, that hashtag will be automatically appended. You can follow Actual Tech Media on Twitter. We are at Actual Tech Media. And you can follow me as well, David M. Davis. Subscribe to all the Actual Tech Media channels on YouTube, Facebook, and the 10 on Tech podcast. You can do that in the top right-hand side of your audience console. You'll find links there to our YouTube channel, where we post all of our latest and greatest events, our Twitter homepage, and of course, our LinkedIn channel. Make sure that you follow us there, because that's really where we post all of our latest and greatest content. Now, I also want to call your attention to a short survey that we're running for a chance to win an Amazon $100 gift card. This is a 5-minute IT operations survey where we're surveying IT professionals about the state of their IT operations. We're especially interested in monitoring and automation. You can find the link to this survey in the handouts tab of your audience console, and you'll also be redirected to the survey automatically at the end of the Discovery Day event. Or you can point your web browser to actualtech.io/survey. Each survey submission enters you for a chance to win one of 5 Amazon $100 gift cards. Our prize policy does apply to that as well, and this should only take 5 minutes to complete. We appreciate your participation in advance to the IT Operations Survey. And with that, I'm excited to introduce you to our keynote presenter, Mr. Ned Bellavance. He's an author, speaker, trainer, YouTuber, and podcaster. Ned, take it away.
Hey everyone, this is Ned Bellavance, Ned1313 on Twitter, and I am here to talk to you today about the idea of using core versus context to make a decision when you're evaluating a new product from a vendor. So today you are going to watch presentations from a number of different vendors who are trying to convince you that you need to know more about their product. How are you going to make that determination? Well, I think the best way to approach making that determination is to have a framework already in mind for how you're going to approach whether or not that product is relevant to you. And I submit to you that one useful framework for that is Jeffrey Moore's concept of core versus context. Now, if you've never encountered this before, let me lay it out a little bit for you. Core versus context is generally brought up in the sense of funding or staffing decisions when you're trying to figure out what's most important for your company. So it refers to the activities that your company participates in. Some of those activities are considered core, essential to your business, and some are context. Well, it's kind of everything else. Core are things that they give you a competitive advantage, whereas context are things that, well, you just have to do to keep the lights on. And that could be something like accounting, unless of course you're an accounting firm, and then that might be core. So it's very dependent on the situation, and it's generally broken up into 4 quadrants. So we have our core or context, which is along in a line of competitive advantage, and then whether or not that thing is also mission critical. So this is something that your company could not survive without. It's mission critical. Something can be core and mission critical, and that's where you should really be applying all of your funding and staffing, to be honest. But something can also be context and mission critical. It's something it doesn't really differentiate your company in any way, but if you didn't do it, well, your company would go out of business. So you have to sort of differentiate between the two. Something can also be core to your business, but non-mission critical, and can be context to your business and also non-mission critical. Now, generally people will specify that anything that is context and not mission critical should be outsourced almost immediately. It doesn't differentiate your company in any way, and it's not mission critical. So why not outsource that or just replace it with something else? Where you get into interesting conversations is what you do around context, where it is mission critical, or core, where it's not. And those have potential to outsource or at least potential to streamline. Now, how does this all center back to making a determination about a product, right? Because we're not talking about staffing and funding. We're talking about choosing whether or not to learn more about a product. Well, you have to decide if the product that you're learning about addresses an issue that you have in your company right now. And I really think it comes down to 2 primary questions. If you're looking at core mission critical, that is going to be something you are making or doing in-house. And ideally, you want to maximize innovation and profitability of that thing. You want to drive it forward. You want to create a competitive advantage. And sometimes you need special tools to do that. So if there's currently a gap in your tooling to drive that innovation, you can ask yourself, does this product fill that gap for my innovation? So that's one side of it. That's one way to approach whether or not a product is relevant to you. The polar opposite of that is its context. And ideally, what I want to do is either make my process or activity more efficient or lower the cost. And that could be a cost of running the activity, or it could be the cost of staffing that activity. There's a number of different ways to slice and dice it. So in that case, you want to ask yourself, does this product make something more efficient than the way I do it now so it can save me some money? Or does it relieve a burden on my existing staff so that they can focus on the aspects that are core to the business as opposed to context? So as you watch all of the presentations today, I want you to keep those two ideas in mind. Is it something that will help me increase my competitive advantage in the core of my business? Or is it something that will streamline the context of my business or make it more efficient? If it does one of those two things, then I highly recommend checking it out in the deep dives that will follow today's presentations. If it doesn't, well, you didn't have to spend your time checking out something that doesn't make sense for your company. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I'm Ned Bellavance, Ned1313 on Twitter. You can check me out there. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe out there. Bye for now.
All right, great presentation, Ned. Really appreciate that. Excellent, wise words of advice there when it comes to selecting new solutions, core versus context. I learned a lot. I hope everyone out there did as well. It's now time to kick off our first presentation here on the Discovery Day event. I'm excited now to hand you off or introduce you to Mr. David Klebanoff, Head of Product Marketing at Alkyra. David, take it away.
My name is David Klebanoff, and I am a Head of Product Marketing for Alkyra. Today we're going to talk about the network and security architecture evolution for the cloud era. We can all agree to the fact that the application landscape has been changing over the years. Now, these changes have really been driving hard the network and security requirements. From the days of the on-premise application deployments in the data centers to the days of the hybrid application deployments, which were spread across the on-premises data centers and the public cloud, and on to the days of the applications that are deployed across multiple clouds and even in edge compute environments. So let's take a little bit of a deeper look into what we first identify as a hardware era. Back in those days, the applications were residing in the data center. The networks were primarily physical in nature, and they were connecting the remote sites to the data centers through either private circuits or services such as an MPLS. The cloud access, if existed, was provisioned through the data center. So was the access to the software as a service applications. In order to accommodate the cloud access from the data center and the applications that were residing in the data center itself, the security perimeter in form of the firewalls was also placed in the data centers. If we look forward about the transitions that have happened, we can now identify the next phase of a software-defined era. This is where the software-defined approaches really took hold. From the wide area networking, we are seeing the birth of the software-defined wide area network that allowed to diversified wide area networking and allow the use of both an MPLS and internet circuits. Now, the software-defined wide area network allowed for a very effective means of connectivity between remote sites and between remote sites and the data centers. Now, in those days, the applications were still predominantly in the data center, but we were seeing a more significant push towards the cloud. Now, the connectivity towards the cloud was accommodated primarily in two different ways. The first way is through the use of the physical co-locations. Those are physical facilities distributed around the world, and in those facilities, some of them were offering the software-defined cloud interconnect, which allowed the enterprises to connect the remote site users and the on-premise data centers to the cloud applications residing in a public cloud. In some other cases, the software-defined WAN solutions provided cloud gateways or cloud on-ramp capabilities to connect to the cloud directly without involving a colocation facility. Lastly, for the SaaS applications that were available primarily through the direct internet access, those were directly accessible from the remote sites. Now, if we think about what happened to the security perimeter really followed the distribution of the applications. For the applications that were still residing in a data center, the security perimeter remained in a data center in the form of the physical firewalls. For the applications that have moved into the cloud, the security perimeter has moved in a form of a virtual firewalls, either natively into the public cloud or in a form of a physical or virtual firewalls into the colocations, because that is one of the mechanisms that organizations would connect into the cloud. For the SaaS applications, we're seeing what is called the Secure Internet Gateway, which is the cloud-based security in order to provide the security inspection point for communication originated at the remote sites. taking a direct internet access into the internet for SaaS application access. As you can see, the distribution of the application environment has really driven the distribution and disaggregation of the security perimeter. So let's look at what happens today. Today we call it a cloud era. In this cloud era, we can clearly see even further distribution of applications and the further distribution of connectivity needs. So what are those needs? So the needs for the cloud era are the ability to provide the network connectivity in a similar manner that the applications are delivered in a cloud environment. Because remember, this is a primarily cloud-driven application deployment. So network as a service, just like public clouds provide an as a service deployment for an applications. Now the access to the cloud is fully integrated, or should be fully integrated, into the network and security architecture, and the security perimeter itself is fully integrated in order to provide a cohesive way to do networking and security in one-stop shop. Now, if we look at the connectivity or things that are connected into this global network and security architecture, are the traditional things such as remote users, remote sites, and on-premises data centers, but also more innovative things such as SD-WAN fabrics, edge computing environment, co-location facilities in some cases, and of course the public clouds, multiple public clouds themselves, and the internet exit points for SaaS application access. So how do we address these requirements in the cloud era? So I wanted to introduce you to the concept of Alkyra Network Cloud. So what is an Alkyra Network Cloud? So first and foremost, it is a global unified network infrastructure that is delivered as a service. It's globally distributed and it's completely virtualized. When enterprises leverage this network infrastructure as a service, they're able to achieve three main objectives. The first one is to provide an end-to-end network connectivity for everything that connects into the network. Those are the remote users, on-premise sites, campuses, data centers, one or multiple public clouds, and SaaS internet exit points. The second one is the concept of an integrated network and security services. In the previous slide, we've touched upon the security services such as the firewalls, but we can expand the concept of the network services beyond just the security services and accommodate the network services that were traditionally residing in an on-premises data centers. And lastly, it's the operational visibility, control, and governance over the entire environment. This is what the Alkyra Network Cloud relies on. These are the principles of the Alkyra Network Cloud. Now, the environment itself, of course, has all the characteristics of elasticity, security, high availability, and everything is executed on an intuitive digital design canvas with one-click provisioning, and once the network has been modeled, the provisioning cycle starts and the network is ready for use in minutes. So let's look again a little bit deeper into the Alkyra Network Cloud. So fundamentally, it is a network and security that is built in the cloud, and it's built for the cloud, which is a very interesting and very important paradigm to realize when you're thinking that the application transitions have really occurred from the on-premises data centers into the cloud, and cloud is really becoming the focal point for all of the enterprise applications. So the ability to build this network and security infrastructure in the cloud so it can service the cloud applications is a very fundamental, a very important principle. And just like the requirements that we looked at from the networking standpoint of being delivered as a service, from the cloud access standpoint of being integrated, and from the security perimeter standpoint that is integrated, which is exactly the point that Alkyra Network Cloud delivers. And here you can see that the Alkyra Network Cloud, that global unified network infrastructure delivered as a service, is really residing on top of the public cloud infrastructure with its elasticity, security, extensibility that comes with the cloud infrastructure. And all the elements such as users, remote sites, data centers, edge compute, co-locations, SD-WANs, multiple public clouds, and internet exit points are all connected to the respective points of presence that are part of an Alkyra network cloud. We call this points of presence as Alkyra Cloud Exchange Points. These are the points where network connectivity and network security converge to allow secure connectivity between anything to anything that is connected over this fabric with the next generation firewall enforcement in accordance with intent-based security policies. There's quite a few use cases that are made possible by deploying an Alkyra network cloud. I'm going to quickly walk you through some of them. Cloud networking is an ability to establish the cloud network that really connects the workloads, or whether within the same cloud or across multiple clouds. The ability to migrate from a traditional means of connectivity such as MPLS into the what we call an Alkyra cloud backbone, and that will establish a global wide area network. The transition from a legacy MPLS backbones to the Alkyra cloud backbone provides a very seamless way for WAN migration. In cases of SD-WAN, Alkyra network cloud allows extension of SD-WAN and interconnectivity of multiple SD-WAN islands. In addition, things like Cloud Firewall provide a security posture enforcement for all of the communication, and network segmentation allows to segment elements of the network to prevent unneeded communication. Services like Cloud DMZ allow organizations to provide secure inbound access for internet-facing applications. And lastly, Zero Trust Network Access provides a next-generation capabilities for remote access VPN coupled with access policy and segmentation and microsegmentation capabilities. I invite you to join a Day 2 presentation delivered by my colleague Misbah Rayman, who is responsible for technical marketing for Alkyra. And if you're ready to take a next step, I invite you to visit alkyra.com/demo to request your own personalized demo and see how Alkyra solution, how Alkyra Network Cloud applies to your environment. With that, I wanted to thank you for your attention and have a great day.
All right, excellent presentation, David. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed learning about the Alkyra Network Cloud. I've just brought up our first poll question of the Discovery Day event, and I want to call everyone's attention to it. The question on the screen there is, would you like to receive an invitation to the Alkyra Deep Dive session that's taking place tomorrow to learn more? So all you have to do is say yes, and you'll get an invitation via email to join that 25-minute deep dive session where you'll get a demo, you'll get all your questions answered, and you'll learn in more detail about the Alkyra Network Cloud solution. There's no obligation. It's just an invitation. If you can't make it, that's okay as well. I would encourage you to say yes, and that way we have registered your response that you would like more information on the Alkyra solution. I'll leave that poll question up while I announce our first iPhone 12 grand prize winner. Again, we're going to have an iPhone 12 giveaway after each of the sessions today in your choice of color. That's right, you get to pick the color of your new iPhone 12. So our first prize winner, this is going out to Carrie Wagner of Idaho. Congratulations, Carrie Wagner of Idaho. We'll reach out to deliver your new iPhone 12. And again, we have 14 more iPhone 12s to give away on the event today. So make sure that you stay tuned for those drawings, as well as, all sorts of details on these innovative solutions that you're learning about on the Discovery Day today. So thank you everyone who responded to the poll. Let's get just a few more responses out there. We do appreciate those. All right, thank you for all those responses. Again, there's no obligation. If you say yes to any of these polls, you'll simply get an invitation to the deep dive session. I know there's no specific time and date right now shown. So if you can't make it, we totally understand. We just wanted to see if you are interested in learning more with the poll questions. So appreciate those responses. Congrats to Carrie out there on the iPhone 12 win. Let's now move on to our next presentation. I'm excited to introduce Joseph Carson, Chief Security Scientist at Thycotic. Joseph, take it away.
Hello everyone, my name is Joseph Carson, Chief Security Scientist and Advisory CISO at Thycotic, and I'm really excited to be here with you today to talk about privilege access management, getting back to the basics, and what are some of the risks from overprivileged users, what are some of the challenges organizations face. So first of all, let's get started into what keeps security leaders up at night. There's many different types of cyber threats out there, and some of these, can be really, really dangerous and catastrophic for many organizations. Some of the biggest ones out there are things like financial fraud, doing invoice changes to the actual accounts that are to be paid. Things like ransomware that can really take a business to basically a complete halt when it comes to systems being unavailable and databases being encrypted and applications no longer available. Ransomware for me is probably one of the biggest top threats out there. And of course, there's things like compliance failure, data breaches and data poisoning, and then insider threats, employees abusing their access and access to information applications. And of course, downtime as well. These are just a few of the major security challenges that organizations and security leaders like you face every single day. And it's our job to understand about how we can reduce the risks from these. So one of the things that all kind of attacks ultimately result from is abusive privilege access. When we think about privilege access, we have to step back and think about what the bigger picture is. Some organizations kind of get into thinking about it's specifically the domain administrator account or specific roles in the organization. But we're actually in the world right now where almost all users are privileged users. It doesn't necessarily mean that all users are equal. What it means is that we have to understand about what risks the access they have. And if they're ever abused, what's the potential damage that those accounts can actually lead to? And we have to think about privileged accounts across all aspects of the organization. They're in the cloud, they're on-premise, they're in virtual machines, they're in applications, they're in basically hosting environments, they're in hardware. Really understand about where all those applications and credentials live. And then it's also about those non-human, the glue that holds organizations together. Those non-human accounts like service accounts and application accounts and automation and robotic process automation as well, and API integrations. Then you've got, of course, the administrator team who's managing the infrastructure. You've got security team who's looking for vulnerabilities and applying software updates. Help desk workers doing troubleshooting and fixing problems in the organization. And then you even have internal business users and external business users. And for some organizations, third-party suppliers or service providers who all need to have access to different systems and applications and data. And this provides a major challenge for organizations in order to secure. Sometimes we refer to them as the keys of the kingdom. But it's really important to understand that not all accounts are equal and they all come with different risks. And we have to look at them, we have to discover them and understand about what that introduces at organizations. And one of the challenges is that we have people in the organization changing roles. We have administrators moving into new positions. We have different people, employees moving from HR or in finance or sales. Every one of our organizations continually is changing and evolving and enhancing. But one thing we're really good at is actually provisioning and enabling those accounts. But one thing we're not very good at is deprovisioning and removing access. And this is a major challenge. For organizations, sometimes disabling the Active Directory account today is no longer enough because many employees have access to cloud-based applications, SaaS-based applications. And we tend to find that even after employees may have left for months, sometimes even years in some organizations, that they still remain and have access to some of those cloud applications, the ones that may have forgotten, or the ones that they actually, signed up for as part of their job, but never actually either, part of shadow IT, they never got registered or informed. So therefore the organizations never really had the ability to have that understanding or auditability or transparency into those accounts. So this is a major challenge, and it's important that we understand about what privileged accounts are out there, and especially those that are actually living in cloud applications and SaaS-based applications. Another major challenge that organizations face is around managing service accounts. Service accounts is really those automation accounts or application accounts that's sitting in the background. In many cases, they're implemented by consultants or third parties or employees many years ago with default credentials or weak credentials. And sometimes they have lifespans of 5, 7, 10, even longer years in service where they never get changed or modified. And this causes a major challenge, and it's a real area where cyber criminals will target service accounts in order to gain access. And many of those service accounts are running as privileged users. They sometimes have, basically domain administrator users or local administrator users. And it really means that if an attacker is able to gain access, they're able to abuse those and move around the environment, either stealing information or potentially causing a lot of damage. So it's really important for organizations to be able to understand about what service accounts they have, how old is the credentials or password, what the dependencies are, and make sure they actually rotate and manage those and actually secure them so they're not an easy target for cyber criminals. Another major area and this is one that I find really challenging, is that the local administrator account. And for me, it's literally one step away from an attacker gaining access to a full domain credential. If you don't protect and secure and put additional controls in place for local administrator accounts, you're going to leave yourself really exposed to cyber criminals being able to abuse this area. And many organizations then enable employees to have local administrator access, be able to install applications or to be able to make changes, or even developers be able to do what they need to do in order to create applications. And this causes a major risk, because if an attacker ever gains access to a local administrator account, it's only a matter of time before they elevate into a full domain administrator. So it's really important that we actually discover, we detect, and we understand, is a user needing local administrator rights? Is there an alternative way? Can you use something like the principle of least privilege or application control so that users can still do their job and still elevate into applications, but on demand, reducing the risk of overprivileged users? And this is a major area that we need to improve and enhance on. And also, we tend to look at the human side of things. Sometimes we think focus purely on technology, but this is a balance between people and technology and processes. We need to look at, yes, a lot of times attackers target employees, they target people and abuse their trust in order to gain access. Looking at ways for the person to give up their credentials unknowingly and becoming a secondary victim to cyber crime. And this is something we need to look at. How can we empower employees? How can we help them move passwords into the background rather than actually having one of the major challenges which employees have today, which is actually the number one source of cyber fatigue, is having to remember and change passwords. Yes, let's help employees move passwords into the background, because the more passwords people have to remember, the more they tend to reuse the same one or simple variations. And this is something that here at Thycotic we really want to help organizations do, is help actually remove that pain, help reduce cyber fatigue, and actually use automated solutions and privilege access management to move those passwords in the background so that users only need to remember a few credentials or even just one, and providing additional security controls and additional authorization to make sure that accounts are being audited, make sure that there's continuous verification, the principle of least privilege, and that when credentials are not being used or need to, be returned, the password can be rotated, so we can actually make sure that that disclosure rate of passwords is as low as possible, which is critical in order to improve security posture of organizations. So let's use privilege access management to move passwords into the background, and that's definitely an area organizations can benefit from. And what are some of the major causes of data breaches? Why do we continually see organizations become victims of cybercrime? And up there in the top area is poor access management. Misconfiguration, human error is also one of the top reasons of increases that organizations become victims of cyber attacks. Overprivileged users, sharing of credentials, employees, unable to access something, do something, they're busy, and they give another colleague access to the system, and then basically they have multiple people have access, and they might be careless with the credentials. They might write it down. They may put it in clear text, file sitting on their desktop, which is something that I commonly see all the time. And passwords being the only security control, we have to move beyond, and that's what privilege access management helps. Not only move passwords into the background, but it helps actually make sure that there's more security controls in place in order to make sure that users are authenticated, continuously verified, the auditability, and sometimes even moving passwords into the background so they don't even need to know them. And this is also important when you're looking at third-party access, our remote employees. Again, as I mentioned, shadow IT as well. So let's help organizations, let's help reduce the common breach causes down and make it more challenging and improve the security posture of organizations. So what things can we do? What can you do to reduce the risk of cyber attacks? What's some of the kind of methods? And this is really where it's all about getting back to the basics, getting down to the foundations of privilege access management. And Thycotic, we have developed the PAM lifecycle, the 7 steps to success. And this is really about kind of the foundation about how you can get started. And the starting point for many organizations is really defining privileged access management. What does it mean for your organization? What's basically the policy? What's the acceptable use? How do privileges get used? Who needs to use them? Where are they located? And what security controls in place? This will help you actually get into the journey to privileged access management success. And it will help you end up moving into the next phase, which is around automating that discovery of privileges. Really making sure you know where privileged accounts are, where they exist, and then deciding the next phase is about what security controls should be in place to reduce the risk of abuse. Then moving into step 4, which is monitoring the usage and access, alerting on the privilege abuse when accounts are being used out of hours or they haven't been used in some time, or it's the first time an employee might be using a privileged account. Is it actually authorized, and do we have the right controls and the right visibility in place? Integrating it into your incident response plan, and then continuous review, audit, update. This is not a one-time checkbox approach. This is a continuous life cycle. It's ability in order to integrate it into your operations to basically allow employees to do the things they enjoy doing. And that's actually working on applications, doing their day-to-day job, and let's move passwords into the background, and let's reduce that cyber fatigue, and let privileged access management do that for you. So this is really all about privileged access management and helping organizations enabling access and enabling authorization and getting into interoperability. So join me tomorrow on day 2 for basically getting into your path to success for privileged access management, whether it being on-premise or in the cloud. I look forward to chatting with you and getting into some of my tips and best practices and taking you on that journey. My name is Joseph Carson, and I look forward to seeing you later. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Great session there. I mean, security is such a hot topic out there in the world of enterprise IT. This has got to be a great deep dive session coming up. I've just brought up the poll question. Would you like to receive an invitation to the Thycotic deep dive session that's taking place tomorrow to learn more? As I said previously, if you can't make the specific date and time, don't worry about it. You can, if you're interested, just indicate yes, and you will receive an email with a recording of the day 2 deep dive session. So, don't be concerned about the specific date and time. This is really more of a question of, are you interested in learning more? And so I'll leave this poll question up for a few moments here, let everyone respond to that. And while I do so, I'll announce the winner of our next iPhone 12. This is going out to Josh Danner from Oklahoma. Congratulations, Josh Danner from Oklahoma. We'll reach out to you to deliver your iPhone 12 in your choice of color. All right, lots more iPhones to give away still, and lots more awesome presentations on today's Discovery Day event. I'll let everyone respond there to the poll question and give you another moment to do that. I'm excited now to introduce Federico, who is a group product marketing manager at Okta. Federico, it's great to have you on. Take it away.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Federico. I'm a security specialist at Okta, and I'm here today just to give you a tease about what to expect from us tomorrow in our presentation. So about us, I work at Okta. So in Okta, we provide secure connections in between people and technology, and we do that through identities. Whether you are signing into web applications you provide to your own customers, servers, or different kind of resources, if there's login, there's password, chances are we are there to help you, and we can help you streamline and further secure that with provisioning, account management, multi-factor authentication, the list goes on. We've been doing this for a lot of customers, and the major reason why they look at us is because we provide step-by-step, easy-to-use integrations that makes the life very easy on your side, whether you work on IT or security. And what we're gonna talk about tomorrow, and what I wanna try and get you excited about, is how to go from firefighting to new normal with 3 actionable tips to bridge workforce security and productivity to this thing called new normal. But I guess to get you excited about this, the title doesn't serve its purpose. I need to explain to you, or try and explain with my words, what is the new normal and what we mean by that. What we mean by that is what's going to happen in the new normal, what's going to happen when people get back to the office. So if you rewind to March, let's say when we started the breakdown, IT and security really jumped the board and helped the organization run remotely. So everybody today is working from their homes. I'm working from mine. Yeah, you can see my bed there. And, oops, back here, cool. And that was possible because IT stepped to the plate and provisioned all sorts of technologies at scale for people to work. That could be VPNs, ADCs, VDI, collaboration tools like Zoom, etc. But the major difference in between the March long days ago and today is that both organizations and employees, they realize this is actually pretty cool. Working from home is very productive. So on the employee side, you have better quality of living, you don't need to commute to work, you can pretty much choose where you want to live. And on the organization side, it's really great because it increases your talent pool. You're no longer limited to a city or to where your HQ is. You can find the better talent anywhere they can be found and at better competitive prices. That's why many organizations expect to have a different scenario where many people will work from the office, but they will always have the option to work from home or remotely. According to McKinsey, this is one of the biggest trends past COVID. In matter of fact, we accelerated 5 years in IT digitization and IT transformation in order to get to this point. But the hardest part is that this creates IT debt. And it's not only like a new kind of IT debt or it's starting from the ground up, but it's piling up on top of the other kinds of IT or security debt you have in your organization. So most of the organizations, they have systems both on-prem and in the cloud. They have servers, they have databases pretty much everywhere, and they have a lot of people signing up, subscribing to new services. So everybody's working really hard to extend that security or threat landscape and perimeter. But on the flip side, the investments on security and IT to keep things from falling off, it's not going at the same pace. So you have double the number of IT resources and information online to protect, but you have half of the staff. So the tips we are providing are about that, how you can overcome these difficulties, working with less resources, covering more ground more effectively, especially in years where anybody can subscribe to solutions in a cloud and can pretty much create that IT debt without even calling you to ask, can I, or why shouldn't I do something like that? So in respect to your time, I'm gonna lay the bricks here. Let me tell you what are those 3 tips. First one is about how to protect, know how to protect, or what to protect actually. The second one is about how to consolidate security wisely. And the third one is how to be the end user's best friend. What we mean by that is how to use technologies where your users will, in exchange for better usability, reach out to security and IT and automatically get into your visibility rather than operating in the shadows. To enable all of this, I'm going to show you an example using identity at the center stage using Okta, but all these tips, they are pretty much portable to any other technology you have. So this is what we are expecting to show you tomorrow. I hope you get excited about this. But in addition to that, let me leave you with a video about how organizations are using technology these days. So we do this at Okta. We provide anonymized data about login and usage trends. And that's really cool. You can use that information to educate yourself which systems you would like to use or which systems you would like to adopt and what are the advantages of doing so. So again, go there, watch the video. Oh, actually it's playing right over here. And if you're interested, please show up tomorrow. Let's show you how Okta works and how we can help you on these 3 tips translated to technology. Goodbye.
All right, really cool presentation there from Frederico. Thank you so much. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone out there that says, would you like to receive an invitation to the Okta Deep Dive session taking place tomorrow? Simple yes or no question. Again, if you can't make it, no worries. It will be recorded and you'll get a link to the deep dive session. It's just a 25-minute session. And that's where you'll get more detailed information as well as answers to all of your questions. So I'll leave that poll question up for everyone to respond to while I announce our next iPhone 12 prize winner. This is going out to Stephen Lentz from California. Congratulations, Stephen Lentz from California. And I'll leave up that poll question for everyone to respond to here for just a moment. All right. Thank you so much for your response to the poll. We do appreciate that. Let's go ahead and move on now to our next presentation on the Discovery Day. I'm excited now to introduce Aaron Swatisky, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Rapid7. Aaron, it's great to have you. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aaron Swisky from Rapid7. I'm a senior manager on our partnership team responsible for our relationships with cloud providers. And today I'm really excited to be here with you talking about some of the challenges that we're hearing from customers and prospects around securing a modern IT infrastructure and some of the ways that Rapid7 solutions can address those pain points. So let's dive in. Kind of top level summary of who Rapid7 is. We're a security company whose mission is to give organizations a combination of technology, services, and research. And basically, between those three things, all of the resources that the security team needs to attain their security objectives. Our Insight platform of products does a variety of different things, but at a top level, our products help security teams reduce the number of vulnerabilities that they have in their IT infrastructure, detect and shut down attacks in real time, and automate tasks so that the security team is able to think at a more strategic level rather than having to be constantly mired in manual processes. So let's start by reviewing some of the challenges that Rapid7 is hearing, both from our customers and prospects that we're talking to out on the market. The biggest thing that we're hearing from customers is my IT footprint and the amount of things that I'm responsible for securing is constantly changing. And that's due to a variety of factors. Obviously, COVID is having a massive impact on how we all work. But frankly, a lot of these trends were already starting to happen long before COVID did. It's just that they've been accelerated over the past year. So of course, the security team is still responsible for managing security of an on-prem network of some type, and that can be an office network, it can be office networks and data centers, however it might look. But they're also having to deal with a lot of newer types of challenges. One of the biggest ones right now is, of course, remote workers. A lot of employees are working from home, and frankly, a lot of them have never even heard of a VPN before. So being able to manage these remote assets and maintain visibility into what's happening with your workers when they're operating out of their living room as opposed to coming into the office every day, that's a really big challenge for a lot of security teams. The other big thing is the adoption of cloud infrastructure. And one of the big challenges we're hearing from customers and prospects around cloud infrastructure is just the scale at which it quickly reaches. It's not just that you have a single cloud account, it's, well, we've got a master account, and then we've got different accounts for different services. And what you see here is actually best practices for how you should set up your cloud infrastructure. You should have different accounts for things like storing your logs. You should have an account strictly to store logs and nothing else. And the reason why you should be divvying up the way that you manage your cloud environment into different accounts is because it's one of the easiest ways for you to ensure least privilege for all of your various users. So you've got all of your various service accounts, and if you're running any sort of web app, well, you've also got multiple accounts for each app that you have. You've got your production account, your testing account, and your dev account. Multiple products mean multiple iterations of prod testing and dev for each of the products that you want to be managing. And so just right here, we've already reached 10 accounts, but since creating an AWS or an Azure account or a GCP account is super, super fast and easy, it's likely that you've got a random account somewhere. And frankly, you've probably got more than just one random account out there that doesn't necessarily fall into the nice organized hierarchy that I was originally showing you. And not just these rogue accounts, but you've also got your subsidiaries, you've got your mergers and acquisitions, which of course have their own accounts. And so this quickly spirals out of control. And, oh, by the way, if you're multi-cloud, you get to do all this over again with another cloud provider or even two other cloud providers. So this is one of the biggest challenges that we're hearing from customers is my company's cloud footprint is growing exponentially and my team is struggling to keep up. We don't really know how to maintain visibility, how to keep up with the rate of change. So that's kind of one of the big overarching challenges that we're hearing from customers and prospects. Speaking a little bit more about the high rate of change, because auto scaling in a cloud environment is so easy, it's very, very common to see a workload that is using elastic load balancers. And so you might have, for example, two servers that are supporting a workload for your business at 8 a.m. And you can have that increase fourfold in this case by the time you get to 2 p.m. and everyone's working away post lunch. And then you look at 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. the next morning, it's down to a single server. So this type of scalability is great for the business, great to be able to provide a solid experience for your employees in this case. But there's a real challenge from a security standpoint because you've got assets that are appearing and disappearing minute by minute. And if you don't have the right security solutions in place, you're very, very quickly looking at stale, outdated data. And bad data is the same as no data, really. Frankly, in many cases, it's worse. So that's another challenge that we're hearing from customers. In addition, you've got the ease of deployment. So if you think about, and this is, of course, a very, very generic example, but if you think about deploying an asset, for example, a server on-prem, you have this entire process that is followed, and you have all these different experts from the IT team and the security team that help set up the asset properly, at least theoretically speaking. And you've got the reassurance that these are folks with years, decades in many cases of experience with security and network architecture, so that when the asset actually comes online, the chances of there being a misconfiguration are very, very low. And when you compare that to the cloud, well, you've got your developer who clicks a button and spins up a new EC2 instance, and they're off to the races. So this challenge that comes with the ease of deployment aspect of the cloud is, on the one hand, what you see on the right here, that's really the biggest value prop that cloud infrastructure has to offer, the speed. And organizations do not want to bring in a bunch of processes that slow down developers. The big reason to move to the cloud in the first place is to accelerate your development cycle, to move faster. And so the question that we hear from a lot of customers is, how do I support this motion of giving more deployment capabilities to our devs and yet still make sure it's done in a secure way, because my developers don't have a lot of experience when it comes to properly configuring assets, and I'm worried they're going to get something wrong. And then you've also got the shared responsibility model, which is great, but it also can create some confusion around what exactly is it that my team as security professionals are responsible for once we start using cloud infrastructure. On premise, it's easy, you're responsible for everything. But if you're using IaaS or infrastructure as a service, one of the most common missed areas of responsibility is right down here, where if you're just using a straight Azure VM or EC2 instance from AWS, you're responsible for the operating system that's on that asset. You're responsible for making sure that it's up to date, that it's properly patched, and detecting if there's any instances out there that are not up to date and that need to be fixed. And so it's very, very easy for there to be unclear responsibilities and a lack of accountability in terms of who is responsible for what. Is it the security team? Is it the dev team? Is it the cloud provider themselves? So that's something else that our customers are coming to us asking to help them solve. So enough depressing slides about the challenges that security teams are facing. Let's shift and talk a little bit about how Rapid7 as an organization can help. Our services and solutions can address a number of use cases. Here are some of the big ones. I think one of the most important, especially with the lens of today's webinar, is security for a hybrid environment. So whether you've got on-prem assets and remote endpoints and some cloud assets thrown in, or your multi-cloud, whatever your hybrid environment looks like, for a lot of security teams, they have to use different solutions for each different type of IT infrastructure. And balancing between tools or relying on spreadsheets to try to merge all this data together and create a complete picture of the organization's security posture, it's a very, very difficult, labor-intensive process. And frankly, there's a lot of blind spots that typically get left behind. Rapid7 is designed from the ground up. Our platform ingests data from a number of different types of IT infrastructure. Our goal is to give our customers a complete view, a single pane of glass, to use a horrible cliche, of exactly what's going on in the organization across all the different types of IT infrastructure that you might be using. Our solutions can help detect and respond to threats in real time, kind of that reactive security layer. And frankly, first, you want to make sure that you've got proactive security in place, that you've minimized the number of vulnerabilities that your organization has, lowered the risk that your organization is facing. And we help do that by helping you find vulnerabilities and misconfigurations. We also can assess your apps for weaknesses, issues in the code base, for example, and also monitor those apps for signs that they're under attack. We can automate a lot, and frankly, automation, I think, is one of the most important aspects to addressing all the pain points that we just discussed. Simply put, there's a lot more footprint these days for the security team to manage, and it's very rare to hear about a security team that's getting additional headcount to handle all of these additional responsibilities. So really, the only way that most teams have a chance of making any headway is to automate things, to remove some of these manual processes that the team is currently doing and that's chewing up so much of their time, so that they can focus on more valuable strategic objectives. We have capabilities around containers and Kubernetes. So as more and more organizations start to containerize their applications, we can help support that. And we can also ingest all the different logs that an organization might have and centralize everything in one place, make sure that we standardize it from a schema standpoint so that it's all searchable, it all makes sense, and it's all usable when conducting any sort of an investigation. And for teams that either are very, very small or that you might just be totally saturated at the moment, there's no capacity to add on any additional tooling, but there's still a need. We offer fully and partially managed security programs where we will actually run the Rapid7 software out of our worldwide network of security operations centers on behalf of you, the customer. And one of the great things there is we'll actually still give you full access to the software as well. So for example, if you're using our managed VM solution for vulnerability management, you still get complete access to our Insight VM product and can use it to keep an eye on what vulnerabilities your organization is facing and make sure that you're tracking progress and generating reports and whatnot. But you've also got the ability to know that there's an entire team of security analysts at Rapid7 who are there running the product on a day-to-day basis for you. So thanks so much for taking the time to really appreciate it, and we hope to hear from you soon.
All right, really cool presentation there on Rapid7 from Aaron. Well, we do appreciate that. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone out there. Would you like to receive an invitation to the Rapid 7 deep dive session to learn more? We appreciate your response here to the poll. Again, you'll get an email. If you can't make the session, no big deal. We just want to know if you would like to learn more about the Rapid 7 solution. So I'll leave that up while we announce our next iPhone 12 winner. This is going out to Nicole McClintock from Kansas. Congratulations, Nicole McClintock from Kansas. You just won an iPhone 12 in your choice of color. We still have, by my count, 11 more iPhone 12s to give out on the event today. So make sure that you stay tuned for those. I'm learning a lot about some really cool solutions on the Discovery Day. I hope that you are as well. I'm going to give everyone a moment here to respond to this poll question about the Rapid 7 deep dive session that's coming up. And then we'll move on to our next presentation. All right. Thank you, everyone who responded to the poll. We do appreciate that. Let's go ahead and move on now to the next presentation on the Discovery Day. I'm excited now to introduce Mr. Brandon Hoffman, Head of Security Strategy and CISO at NetEnrich. Brandon, it's great to have you. Take it away.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Discovery Days. My name is Brandon Hoffman. I'm the Head of Security Strategy here at NetEnrich. And today we're going to just touch briefly on intelligent SOC with attack surface. So we're going to have just a brief conversation today about what intelligent SOC with attack surface is, and we'll dive in right away. So what we mean by intelligent SOC is a theory, but it's a theory that we've put into place. It's a theory we've put in motion around evolving security operations to include the notion of putting combination between machine and human intelligence, and to really focus on outcomes from a SOC perspective. And the way that we drive those outcomes is centered around these 5 topics here on the right-hand side of the screen. So we have a strong focus on big data and leveraging AI ops for deeper correlation, contextualization, and collaboration across teams. From a strictly speaking security focus, of course, it's all about security, but by this, what we mean is expanding the risk perspective from just an internal view to including an external view. So really providing a more holistic risk perspective to help prioritize and focus the work that security operations folks are doing. By operationalizing intelligence, we of course mean threat intelligence, which is what most people mean. And of course we mean intelligence from the security stack, from other security tools. But something else that we mean here that is a little bit different is the knowledge that and the intelligence that your people have and that our people have, and putting that together in finding ways where we can codify that tribal knowledge into a system so that rote tasks or tasks that are done by people that really are better served to be done by machine because they're more menial can just be done by the system, and the system will learn from those people. From a resolution perspective, of course, we're focused on helping solve incidents now, but what we mean by this is really trying to do deep root cause correlation and closed loop problem solving so that we are finding those 1 or 2 incidents that could be causing a handful or of a higher volume of other incidents that may seem unrelated, so that we have less incidents down the road. And from a transformation perspective, this is where we're aligning those outcomes really with the business to try and drive IT from being a cost center into being an enabler. So let's just take a quick glimpse at what it means. What do we mean really by intelligent SOC? So traditionally, security operations and a SOC is really on the left side of this Venn diagram, really threat detection focused, looking for resident malware, finding active attacks, finding exfiltrations, phishing, bots that might be resident on the system and things like that. That's, traditional threat detection. And certainly we're not saying there's no value in that. It's hugely valuable, has to be done. It's never going to go away. So certainly the SOC should continue doing that. Now, the thing that we see as a problem is that it's very reactive in nature. And what we're trying to do with intelligent SOC is combine, that bigger risk perspective by using tools and people and processes to find exposures as well. So exposure identification, or what an adversary would call an opportunity. And by that, what we mean is things like brand exposure, certificate issues, misconfigurations on external infrastructure, third party, code exposure. Those types of things is what we're looking to do to help move our customers from a reactive state to a proactive state. So of course, we all know in security, there's no such thing as 100%, but the more exposures we find, right? These are really breach points or attack vectors. The more exposures that we find and remediate, the less of a dependency we'll have on the threat detection, or the less that it'll be necessary because we'll be closing down a lot of those exposures in advance. So this is really the core of value. Technically, the value that we're talking about is moving customers from a reactive state to a proactive state by doing exposure identification. So a quick glimpse in how we do that, the tools and the data that we use. In the threat detection ring, we have a suite of classic tools and processes and some novel ones. So we have, of course, SIM, log collection, flow collection, EDR. We hook into SaaS APIs and use AI and machine learning to drive that engine on the back end. And that exposure identification ring, there's some classic elements too there. Things like vulnerability management, that of course has to mean internal and external vulnerability management. What are your IT ops assets using ITOM tools, hooking into cloud APIs, and then some newer elements that we'll focus on, things like attack surface and breach and attack simulation, but attack surface specifically is what we'll talk about today, just for a few moments. And then cutting across both of those is threat intelligence. So classic threat intelligence, fall into the threat detection ring. That's where they get operationalized. Things like IOCs and artifacts and YARA rules. And then the less operationalized components of threat intelligence, like certificate transparency and vulnerability intelligence, domain intelligence, those start to get applied in that exposure identification ring. So these are the components that comprise the intelligent SOC story today. And so let's take a little bit of a deeper dive on attack surface. That's where I'd like to spend a few moments. So what do we mean by threat and attack surface intelligence? This is a component of intelligent SOC. There's two parts to this. There's, of course, that threat intelligence part that we were just talking about. What are the adversaries doing? What are the tools they use? Who are they attacking? All that relevant information. And then there's attack surface management, which is what do bad guys see when they target a brand, whether it's just a drive-by or whether it's actual reconnaissance. What can they know or glean about an organization to find those opportunities, to find those attack vectors? So in this case, we have a threat intelligence portal called Knowledge Now, and ASI is our continuous attack surface monitoring component of intelligent SOC that has some analysts on the back end driving it. And so together, we're giving what we believe is complete threat actor insight, at least relevant to your organization from a risk perspective. So what do those things look like? From a threat intelligence perspective, it's important to have both sides of threat intelligence. And by that, I mean contextual threat intelligence and technical threat intelligence. So here we see contextual threat intelligence. This is news aggregation around cyber activity. So you can see this is about a specific company that's been targeted. Maybe they had an issue. There's some technical tags on the right-hand side that talk about maybe the tools, techniques, and processes that the adversaries use. But what this part of the product does is it aggregates, cyber news across the internet and correlates them together to create consolidated, concise news feed about what's happening. Now, the other side, of course, of threat intelligence is to have all the technical elements. So there's, trending on methods or TTPs. There's trendings on vulnerabilities. What are the threat actors? Who are they? What are the TTPs they have? What's the hottest malware that's been going for the past 7 days, for the past 60 days? And of course, digging into all that and understanding all the indicators and artifacts that you can extract from that intelligence. So these are the two components to create a well-rounded threat intelligence offering. All this data is contained in here, and we take all this data and we apply it to the attack surface module. Now, the attack surface module, when you first go into it, you're presented with an overall risk score, and that trends that score over time. That composite risk score is really a roll-up of 4 categories of risk, which we can see down here: threat correlation, vulnerability, brand exposure, and misconfiguration. And threat intelligence is applied to all of these categories to help calculate that risk. So if we take just a quicker mini deep dive, here we can see the different types of checks that exist under these categories, things like, exposed code or expired domains, or domains that might have appeared actually in threat intelligence feeds. So you can see all that information in there. And then before we do the risk, right, we have to do a discovery. So there's 2 phases to attack surface. There's discovery, where we find all the different assets and we provide some initial insights. And then we go ahead and bring in the threat intelligence and determine, is there any risk with those assets? So we chart the risk as well. We can see this risk here going up and going down. Ideally, we want it going down. This ultimately becomes a way to start measuring return on investment. As you're applying security controls, ideally your attack surface should go down. And then if we dive just a little bit deeper, we can open up a specific event and find out what was going on. So we discovered some piece of infrastructure. We brought in some threat intelligence, and we determined that this piece of infrastructure is actually on a bunch of blacklists. And why was it on a bunch of blacklists? And you can dig in here, you can get recommendations on how to fix it. And that's how we just start making it intelligent. So again, taking threat intelligence, applying it to attack surface, can find all these issues, these opportunities for adversaries, and you can close them off early. So if this is something that was interesting for you, we do have a session tomorrow, which will dive much deeper into this topic on how to use the threat intelligence, how to use the attack surface module. So we'd love to have you join us tomorrow for our deep dive session on threat intelligence and attack surface. And again, my name is Brandon Hoffman, head of security strategy at Net and Rich at Discovery Days. Would love to see you all in the session tomorrow, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching.
Great session, Brandon. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. We got a lot of good questions coming in as well. If this is a topic that interests you, then I encourage you to respond there to the poll. The question I just brought up is, would you like to receive an invitation to the Net and Rich Deep Dive session? That's taking place tomorrow, 25-minute session. If you can't make it, no worries. You will get an email with a link to the recording from the session. We appreciate your participation there in the poll, and I'll just leave that up while I announce our next iPhone winner. All right, we've got another iPhone 12. This is going out to Madit Bat from New Jersey. Madit Bat from New Jersey. I'll post the names of all the prize winners in the questions box for everyone to check out. In case you missed one, want to make sure that I didn't call your name already. Congratulations, of course, to all the prize winners thus far. We still have 10 more iPhone 12s to give out on the Discovery Day event today. So best of luck to everyone out there in the audience. And of course, thank you so much for participating there in the poll question. Would you like to receive an invitation to the deep dive session about the Net and Rich solution? I'll give everyone a final moment to respond to that poll. All right, thank you to everyone who responded to the poll question. Let's go ahead and move on now to our next presentation on the Discovery Day. I'm excited now to introduce Stephen Ikean, Chief Executive Officer at Airkit. Stephen, it's great to have you on the event today. Take it away.
Ikean, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Airkit. Excited to be here today to discuss how Airkit can help you drive sales and reduce costs by delivering a digital self-service experience to your customers. As a quick background on us, our team has had success building enterprise and consumer applications in the past. Most recently, we successfully built the first AI-powered CRM platform called RelateIQ. Salesforce acquired us in 2014. And I like to say the journey didn't end there. We spent 3 years reporting to their CEO and helping build a lot of their intelligent enterprise features. Most notably was Salesforce Einstein, their AI platform. And within Salesforce, we spent years working with countless customers, helping drive the adoption of the Salesforce platform as the source of truth, the system of record for all your customer data. But unfortunately, we were unable to help companies use this data to build smarter and more digital interactions with their customers. We call this the last mile of customer engagement, and we started Airkit to fix this problem. And we're fortunate to receive the backing of some world-class investors. And in a short period of time since we've launched, we've been fortunate to work with some of the leading brands in the world across almost every industry to help fix this last mile of customer engagement. A great example is MetLife. It's a Salesforce customer, and we're working with them to digitize the entire life insurance enrollment process. It's now a completely self-service sign-up experience that's driving millions of dollars of revenue to the business. Or Agero, the leading provider of roadside assistance in the United States. They get millions of calls per year, and they're using Airkit to deflect those calls into a digital self-service experience. And finally, I just want to note, Skip the Dishes. It's a hyper-growth, tech-enabled food delivery business in Canada that's seen rapid growth, and they're using Airkit to help accelerate the onboarding process for new restaurants, taking that onboarding from weeks down to days. And when you talk to our customers, the reason why the last mile is broken is because they have so much data on the customer that's sitting in these systems of record. They just struggle to extract that data to build a more personalized and self-service customer experience. And the way to fix this problem, that's broken too. And we're going to unpack that today. And when we reference this last mile, we're really referencing all those moments of friction throughout the customer journey, whether it's top of the funnel customer acquisition, trying to get a lead on the phone, or pulling a lead through a complex onboarding process in sales. We still have paper forms with huge dropout rates, to post-acquisition customer service and care. Customers are waiting on hold way too long to resolve an issue, or your inability to meet your customers at the channel of choice. And then finally, trying to use your customer data. It's difficult to create proactive service experiences, or take that same analogy to create a proactive renewal or upsell experience to really meet your customers at that right moment of time. These are hard for companies today, and these are the moments that we're targeting. And they tend to be also the most important moments in the customer journey. These are the moments your customers are making buying decisions whether or not to purchase your product or renew. And again, talking to our customers, there's a consistency of why it's so difficult to fix this last mile. This is kind of what we're hearing, and I'll layer in our customer stories here. Number one, your existing systems and investments are just not enough. For example, your existing CRM system, it does not provide an effortless or self-service customer experience. Or number two, there's a ton of ideas that are sitting in engineering backlogs that are just not being prioritized today. And the top reason is there's just not enough engineers to work on these projects. So long backlogs. And number three, it's this idea that once projects are being prioritized, the timelines to complete and time to market are measured in kind of quarters to years. It's just way too long to respond to your customer needs. And for a lot of companies today, they're trying to compete against the digital-first entrants in their market. And why we're so excited to solve this problem is when you do win, when you fix the last mile, it's good for both you as a business and your customers. From top of the funnel customer acquisition and driving revenue, MetLife, through digitizing paper forms, is driving tens of millions of dollars in revenue there. Or Turo, that's transforming their customer care operations by enabling their customers to self-serve over the phone. Or even First Republic Bank. There's a huge backlog of projects they want to digitize, and just not enough engineers today to do that. With Airkit, a single engineer was able to work through a years-long backlog of projects and complete that in months. So you see three different value propositions of driving revenue, reducing costs, and exceeding and accelerating your development capacity. Three ways to accelerate digital transformation in your business. And when you think of Airkit, we enable you to fix this last mile of customer interactions about 40 times faster than typical ways of building it today. And we'll unpack that today. And when you think of faster speed of development, what it starts with is the ability to reuse common components. This is the no code. And when we started Airkit, we really kind of dissected the most common kind of customer experiences we could find. And so they all kind of consist of the same raw materials and building blocks, what our customers call the Lego building blocks. So let me just unpack what comes out of the box with Airkit. Ability to kind of create an experience with a calendar picker to schedule a callback, e-signature component, digital payments with digital payment captures or digital wallets that come out of the box, media uploads, scan a barcode, take a picture or video, a multi-step process, the ability to capture where are you on a map, to even quickly creating a chat or voice bot experience, or even if you don't see an experience you like, you can build your own. You can bring your own code in or your own custom React components. This comes out of the box with Airkit. And this is really the no code. I mean, under the hood, it's code, but we start reusing common components to drive acceleration. And when you think of acceleration, we're also able to configure those building blocks into common workflows, what we call templates. Out of the box with Airkit, you get a number of these kind of templates. We're also finding companies are creating standardized experiences on our platform to standardize across different business units and geographies. So again, out of the box with Airkit, common templates are digitizing paper forms, call scheduling, automating onboarding, mobile opt-in, accepting terms and conditions, digital payments, the ability to move a conversation from voice into live chat or self-service, surveys, cross-sell opportunities, and authentication. Just some of the starting points of how companies get started on Airkit. And again, behind the scenes is a full visual builder. When I think builder, there's multiple of those. There's a visual environment to orchestrate a customer experience across voice, chat, and web channels today. We have a full web builder to create this experience, as well as chat and voice builders, as well as we also have a database if you want us to store data, or we integrate into your systems of record. Portal builders, calendars, there's a ton under the hood here, but the idea is you can kind of visually accelerate the construction of these experiences using all the common components under the hood. And the benefit with Airkit is you have one platform to drive all your customer engagements. And when you think of customer engagement, you've got to meet your customers where they are. And it starts with kind of meeting them across the channel of preference and where they are. So, example, from the desktop to web to email to voice solutions, as well as the most common messaging protocols, we can deliver an experience across those channels. But to really drive action, we have to connect to those back-end systems of record where your customer data resides. With Airkit, we have pre-built integrations into the most common CRM platforms, ERP, payment platforms, data warehouses, as well as third-party AI platforms if you want to drive insights from the data we're capturing, as well as contact center solutions so we can hook into voice. And in between your channels of communication and your customer contact records and data is the Airkit platform. From the studio that we showed you to orchestrate an experience across all these different channels, to the raw materials, building blocks, we like to call them, kind of raw materials plus templates, help you accelerate the development capabilities. And it is, as well, we're built for the enterprise. I mean, our customers are some of the largest Fortune 500 companies. They are using Airkit as a one-stop shop for development. And you don't have to think about security compliance, infrastructure, maintenance, the CI/CD environments, DevOps, analytics reporting. That all comes in under the hood. So again, it's a platforms built by developers for developers, and I would love to spend more time unpacking this with you. And ultimately, if you take that platform and apply it to those moments of friction that we kind of walked through earlier, these are just examples of how customers have gotten started on the Airkit platform, but you're really taking those moments of friction and turning those into moments of differentiation. From top of the funnel, driving connect rates, over 2x what the customers are seeing today, to digitizing paper forms, and we're seeing a 50% reduction in dropout rates by moving to digital from paper. To accelerating onboarding, and kind of mentioned taking onboarding processes that are weeks down to days, and then extending this to customer care and support. Really, a key theme here is how do you help customers move from a voice channel into a channel of preference, whether it's live chat or digital self-service on their mobile devices. Additionally, helping use your existing customer data to engage customers at that moment where they need help, where you kind of almost anticipate the call before it happens, so proactive service. and taking that proactive concept into renewals, upsells, cross-sells. You can almost imagine taking your existing data to engage the customer at the right moment of time, with the right offer, in the right channel, as well as capture payments in a compliant way. ERC is a great example of achieving 100% compliance, PCI compliance on top of Airkit, as well as digital appointments. This is almost those moments of re-enrollment. You can create a proactive experience to engage the customers to get on the phone with a renewal agent. So again, these are moments of how customers have gotten started with Airkit, but the idea is we can service your customers from the top of the funnel acquisition all the way through the enrollment to upsell and cross-sell opportunities. So with that, thank you for your attention. If there's interest, I would love to dive in further. Please email me at steven@airkit.com, Steven with a PH, or come to our website at airkit.com, and look forward to a conversation with you. Thank you very much.
Really cool presentation there from the CEO of Airkit. Thank you so much, Steven. Really appreciate that. That was so cool to see that in action. We got a lot of great feedback from the audience as well about the use and reuse of templates to automate common tasks in the IT infrastructure and in the business. So really cool offering there, no code or low code solution from Airkit. If you'd like to learn more and see the deep dive session on this, I've just brought up the poll question for you. You can click yes there on the poll and you'll get an invitation to the Airkit deep dive session. If you can't make it, no worries. You'll get an email invitation, or actually an email to the link for the recording. You can watch it after the fact. So I'll leave that poll question up for everyone to respond to while I announce our next iPhone 12 winner. This is going out to Oliver Reblodio from California. Oliver Reblodio from California. Again, I'll post all the names of the winners there in the questions box as well. Before we move on to our next presentation, I just want to pause here for a moment and let everyone respond to this poll. All right, thank you to everyone who responded to the poll there. So many good comments, a lot of good feedback coming in on the Airkit presentation. We do appreciate that. I totally agree. It was a very cool presentation. So thank you so much. Let's now go ahead and move on to our next presentation on the Discovery Day event. I'm excited now to introduce Moritz Mann, Chief Strategy Officer at Open Systems. Moritz, take it away.
Everyone, my name is Moritz Mann. I welcome you to the Shift Left Cybersecurity session about to answer why an integrated SOC and NOC is right for your business at any size. So to quickly talk about and give you an introduction why this is a relevant topic is we have to look at how the spectrum of network and security operations has increased. So at first we had the era of the data center, which is basically not over, but which was actually the initial way on how applications were accessed. We were talking about a very static, infrastructure-centric mode that was built around these application servers, and access to the internet was only possible through dedicated internet breakouts that were accessible via the headquarters or the different data centers around the world for companies. And this is still a valid model for some companies today, but has been more and more replaced with a new and current hybrid multi-cloud reality, which you see in the middle, which is all around putting internet applications such as SaaS and PaaS and IaaS application at the center of interest. We see also that we have a new model of more agility and identity and data centricity. So that means that users are not longer confined to certain sites or locations, but we expect also with the new home office and work from home reality that applications are accessible on-premise, but also in different cloud scenarios all over the world. At the same time, we see the rise of the edge, which is coming from a very custom lighthouse project mode more and more into the mainstream, and with that, it's also becoming more and more relevant for the operation centers of in IT. So when we look at what this means in terms of objectives from a business side, primarily in the first model, we had mostly remote and internet access, the primary core mission and requirement of businesses going forward. Because internet access and remote access are kind of the currencies that make the business run and enable customer usage. Today, SaaS, IaaS, and cloud adoption are the number one topic. We are now in a phase where we have mobile, bring your own device, and work from home as kind of becoming the new normal, and enterprises and operational teams have to adapt to it. And last but not least, with the new user experiences and Industry 4.0 in OT, we see that the integrated edge will become one of the critical parameters for enterprises to distinguish. But what does this mean for network teams and security teams? So from a network perspective, we talk about availability or uptime and the proximity to the application, which is highly defining the user experience. So when we talk about the different stages of the evolution that we see, you can see that the uptime requirements and also the round trip times are getting much lower because we are coming closer and closer to the application. But at the same time, for certain use cases, you have higher availability, but also higher network availability requirements. And last but not least, on security side. So on the security side, we have a much bigger asset exposure going forward, ranging from 2 billion enterprise IT assets to over 7.5 billion IoT and OT shadow assets going forward, and having a range from starting early on in the days more on end-user focus attacks, now with adversaries that are more and more focusing the organization as a whole, like we saw at the Emotet or a TrickBot, or in really on the platform, if you look at IoT-based attacks where your own devices or your own enterprise devices can turn against others and yourself. So, but let's drill down a bit on the key challenges that we will discuss in our upcoming webinar. So first of all, we have a fragmented best of breed approach, which is not working really. What we've seen over the past few years is that there have been more and more capabilities added to the network to make actually the different use cases work in order to enable side-by-side VPNs, remote access, but also then going forward, enabling internet access and cloud access and trying to secure that. And over the time, the operational teams have now built a big legacy on different technologies they have to take care from a network, IT ops and security ops perspective, which leads to a high degree of complexities we see in surveys, but also when looking at the customers and hearing about customers, that there's a lot of insecurity and not an integrated model how to approach these problems. And mostly what this reality leads to is a disjointed architecture that increase costs, reduce efficiency, and basically it also means that instead of becoming more agile, the enterprise becomes more reactive in adopting new trends. Challenge number two, the last challenge here is that we have the ability that operations today is all about 24/7. For global enterprises, this has been always one of the key aspects of providing IT services and security to their end users and business core applications. But going forward, as we collaborate more and more with more and more partners, this becomes a key critical aspect on how to operationalize this infrastructure. Second challenge is that the cloud today is an uncharted territory for most NOC and SOC teams. So we had several evolutions of also modes that change in the way how things are being deployed. So we see from from classic milestone gated waterfall projects more and more to a common agile approach on how to develop new applications or introduce change into the organization. On the application landscape, there's a huge shift from this monolithic server and bare metal connected applications to a more cloud-based location-independent service mesh that actually traverses and stitches together several functions into one application. And then also when it comes to how software is being released, there's the major shift from clear service windows and release windows to a more continuous integration, continuous deployment model, which is basically constant means constant change to the infrastructure. And also one of the fourth pillar here is that enterprises are looking to standardize custom cloud operating models into a more common approach on how to actually deploy, manage, but also monitor these environments going forward. The key issue here is that most of the survey participants we've seen in one of the recent SOC surveys by SANS was that the key issue here is twofold. One is having the specific skills and training in place, and the right that also is greatly influencing the approach. And secondly, also the inability to respond and even detect threats that are traversing cloud apps and data. So it's not only an issue in the existing space, but it's also going forward an issue having the adversaries being very independent from which angle of the infrastructure they can attack and harm the enterprise going forward. Challenge number 3 is that we are facing a siloed team, data, tools, and processes. This is absolutely just a reflection of what is potentially possible in reality. Reality often looks much more complicated than that. But the point here is that teams are trying to optimize and gain in their respective scope one layer of visibility. But the reality is that most of the processes are highly manual, and teams face a siloed visibility of going forward. And so there's not really a single source of truth to automate and automate different workflows, and the humans focus on tasks that should be automated if possible. And automation has been one of the key kind of factors going forward to success when it comes to leveraging and maximizing the team's capabilities and enabling them really to focus on what their core mission is. A security operations team is often focusing on hunting, monitoring, containing security threats. So this includes continuously monitoring alerts, triaging events according to severity, finding threat actors or TTPs that are true positives, and but they are always looking at the root cause and assume that this happens because of a security incident. And at the same time, IT network operations does the same, just with a slightly different focus, ensuring most of the time uptime, reducing attack surface by patching and looking for fast change request implementation. But in both cases, this leads to reactive prevention and a reactive containment. So join us on the 25th of March when we talk about how to shift left of cybersecurity on the NOC and SOC integration, and we'll talk about again more of the root causes, where this is coming from, how do we address it, and also I will show you some real world examples when NOC and SOC work together. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to Moritz at Open Systems. Really great presentation. I do appreciate that. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone out there that says, would you like to receive an invitation to the Open Systems Deep Dive session taking place on Thursday? Again, if you can't make it, no worries. You will get an email with a link to the recording after the fact. We just want to make sure that we register your interest in the Open Systems solution. So I'll leave that poll up there while I announce our next iPhone prize winner. We've got another iPhone 12, and this one's going out to Chandra Stinapa from Utah. Congratulations. Chandra Stinapa from Utah. I may be mispronouncing it right. I'll post, again, the prize winners' names there in the questions box. All right. Thank you to everyone who responded here to the Open Systems poll. We do appreciate your interest, and we will send you an email invitation. Coming up after our next presentation, we'll be doing another poll, but I'll also have a catch-up poll, if you want to call it that, just simply listing every presenter on the event today, and if you'd like to register your attendance for any of their deep dive sessions coming up. All right. Thank you to the responses to that poll. Let's go ahead and keep the Discovery Day moving. I'm excited now to introduce you to our next presenter. Welcome Aubrey Turner, Executive Advisor at Ping Identity. It's great to have you, Aubrey. Take it away.
Hi there. Welcome to Discovery Days. And the title of this session and presentation is Building a Zero Trust Blueprint with Identity, also known as Zero Trust Powered by Identity in 12 minutes or less. So who is Ping Identity? Well, we champion identity at large enterprises. We've been doing this for a while now, and customers love us because of the independence we offer through open standards, integrations, and because we make our customers look good, they've rewarded us with an industry-leading NPS score of 65 that none of our competitors can match. Our analyst friends also really like us. It's why we, Ping Identity, are ranked higher than our competitors on our ability to execute in Gartner, for example. And so now that you know who Ping is, you probably wondered, who am I? Well, my name is Aubrey Turner. I'm an executive advisor at Ping Identity. I've got about 20 years of cybersecurity experience with about 12 or more, 12-ish in identity access management, another 5 in data security and privacy, and the balance of that sprinkled across the other cybersecurity domains, which are relevant to the zero trust conversation. And so we'll talk about more of those here shortly. So zero trust has been around for a while. I'm just guessing maybe 8+ years in the term. But here's why it's gaining popularity, and here's why there's so much energy and momentum behind zero trust. So we've got a lot of digital transformations, and it really represents a new reality. And so we've truly redefined the corporate perimeter. And just one quick note, most of the digital transformation has been occurring outside the firewall anyway. And so it's kind of created this, again, redefined the perimeter, created this sort of borderless world. So we've got this idea of working from anywhere, driven by the events of the past year with the pandemic. And so we've got corporate resources on the inside and the outside. We've got employees who are employees and partners, needing access from anywhere on any device, and resource consumption that has shifting to APIs and SaaS apps, and the SaaS apps that's long been occurring, but SaaS plus public cloud and other things like that. And one thing that I really emphasize, we've evolved and very quickly moved from trust but verify to never trust, always verify. And the idea of a network you can trust, that doesn't hold up. And so along those same lines, it's the idea of like, hey, I'm going to take and assume I've been breached approached. It's along those lines of never trust, always verify. So when it comes to cloud resources, everyone is a remote user. The entire purpose of BYOD is to enable remote access. And the core principle of zero trust is that all networks should be considered hostile, meaning that traffic should be treated as if it originated on the public internet. And ultimately, every user, every device, every service resource should be authenticated and authorized. And so that's why the dramatic shift to zero trust. So let's move on and talk a little bit about the framework. And again, there's been so much talk about zero trust. You might be feeling like you need to go pick some up before they are out of it, like a year ago with paper products and disinfectant. But you can't, right? You can't just go run down to the store and grab some zero trust and take it home and install it, right? Or take it back to work and install it. And that's because zero trust is not a product, but a framework or methodology. So let's talk about its anatomy and kind of briefly walk through its components. So one way to think about zero trust is as next gen defense in depth. With that approach, it becomes identity centric. And you think about how identity relates to modern security frameworks, and again, where it exists at the ring zero there. And so you add to that things like network security, device security, context security. You can also think about as workload transaction security, data security, and application security. And sort of those are the components. And identity, every element of this framework outside identity, from data security to network security, is improved by a company or an organization having a strong identity posture. And another way to look at this is identity providing a foundation and enabling initiatives such as zero trust, customer privacy, consent, being able to honor consent, and then sort of deal with the regulatory soup that we're faced with, healthcare regulations like the Cures Act. Many of those are enabled by identity. And so my contention is zero trust without identity is suboptimal. And so we can take that a little bit further and kind of probe a little bit more the layers of zero trust. And as I walk through this, think about where and how you're prioritizing zero trust investments, and you've been making cybersecurity investments sort of all along. By the way, and is this sort of representation of zero trust, does it remind anyone else of the OSI Layer 7 model? I just had flashbacks from having to remember it for the CISSP exam many years ago. Anyway, I'll get back to it. So think about these investments, these components, and like I said, you've likely been making them. So gotta give zero trust a seat at the table. But if I walk through these a little bit more, from an identity perspective, do we trust who you say you are? You add network to that, and do we trust where you're coming from? Do we trust your device? Do we trust your behavior and your risk profile? Key aspect of zero trust is risk is not static. It's dynamic. So we have to be able to understand your risk profile and our risk tolerances. And then, do we trust you to view or alter this data? It's all about the data after all. And then, do we trust you to use this service? So as you think about these and how you're making investments, again, I go back to the fact that they are suboptimal without the appropriate identity posture. So Ping has solutions either through our own specific products or integration partners that help across each of these components and can help you build that zero trust framework, that zero trust model. So the benefits of identity-centric zero trust: productivity, less help desk calls, and fewer password resets. You can help contain costs that way. Reducing friction drives productivity, and enhance end user experience drives better productivity. So that's one of the benefits. Also, security, being able to secure that remote workforce. You send all those people home, you've got to be able to find a way to continue to secure them while they work from home, and eventually maybe come back into the office and have a hybrid work model. Mentioned risk, so dynamically scoring risk and leveraging that to enhance security, as well as passwordless, and shifting away from a server-side password credential model to one that is passwordless, and being able to reduce the number of passwords in your environment. Ping has been doing this, by the way, for years and years through our single sign-on and MFA solutions, and we are helping customers along that passwordless journey. And then from an agility perspective, eliminating and tearing down silos, centralizing authentication and user administration. One example that I talk about is several companies are talking about multi-cloud strategies. Well, how do you balance and how do you understand security across that multi-cloud model? You've got to adopt identity as your control plane, and so adopting identity as your control plane will allow you to securely accelerate digital transformation projects. And I would argue doing that and leveraging identity in those projects, you can increase revenue, unlock new revenue streams, and again, cost containment. These all tie back to the main theme of this Discovery Day, this Discovery Day event: streamlining, securing, and protecting cloud, IT, and business operations. Again, leveraging identity, an identity-centric zero trust approach will lead to these benefits. And so you're probably also thinking, hey, Aubrey, you talk a big game, but can you back it up? And sure, I can. And here are a couple quick thoughts on how Ping can help you on your road to zero trust, and help you create a compelling business case to partner with us on that road to zero trust. Number one, schedule a meeting with my team, the team that I'm part of, the executive advisor team. And these are the exact type of activities that we do. We help to uncover the unique facets of your organization, help drive that business case. And then two, you can receive a custom business value assessment from Ping Identity, help you understand the true value of identity in your organization. So just a couple quick thoughts there on some next steps on your road to zero trust. This is my time. I mentioned, zero trust, a blueprint in 12 minutes or less, and I'm going to stick to that. So I want to thank you, and I look forward to part 2 of our Discovery Day session, so we get to spend a little bit more time together. Have a great day. Take care.
All right. Thank you, Aubrey. Really great presentation there from Ping Identity. Do appreciate that. I learned a lot. Really cool solution. I know that could help a lot of companies out there. If you'd like to learn more about the Ping Identity solution, I've just brought up the poll question for everyone out there. Click yes, and you'll receive an invitation to the Ping Identity Deep Dive session that's taking place on Thursday. Again, if you can't make it, no worries. You'll get a link to the recording via email. So I'll leave that up while I announce our next iPhone 12 winner. That iPhone is going out to Tiffany Fauch. Tiffany Fauch from Tennessee. Congratulations to Tiffany from Tennessee. We'll reach out to you to deliver your new iPhone 12. I want to remind everyone we have, looks like 7 more iPhone 12 still to give away on the event today. So make sure you stay tuned for those drawings. I will post all the prize winners' names there in the questions box. Doing that right now. I want to give everyone a moment here to respond to this poll. All right, prize winners' names are posted in the questions box now. All right, if you haven't answered that poll, go ahead and do it now, because I'm moving on to one more poll, and I'll just kind of call this our catch-up poll. And someone asked me if that means ketchup or mustard. No, ketchup here is in regard to all of the presentations that you've seen so far. This is your opportunity to select whether or not you would like to receive invitations to any of these sessions, and not just the sessions that you've seen so far, but the sessions that are coming up still. If you see a name on this list and you say, hey, I'd like to learn more about them and their product, now's your opportunity to essentially say yes to any of the presentations that will be going on the Discovery Day event today. So I'll leave this up for a moment as well. If you don't see 15 names on that list, just scroll down. You can use your mouse scroller or click the slider on the right-hand side of the slides window. You can also make the slides window larger, and you'll see all the options on the list. Of course, this is a multi-select question, so feel free to select multiple. That's the whole point of this. Select as many as you would like, and I'll leave that up. Give everyone a moment to respond to this. All right, thank you everyone who responded to the poll question there. Let's go ahead and move on now to our next presentation on today's Discovery Day event. All right, I'm excited now to bring on Mark, who's a Senior Director for Product Management at Nutanix, and Sam, who's the Director of Solutions Marketing at ArcServe, to talk about the Nutanix and ArcServe joint solution. Mark and Sam, take it away.
Good to be here. And we are here with Mark Niemeyer to talk about ransomware and latest trends and how ArcServe and Nutanix help to protect from ransomware.
Yeah, great to be here, Sam, and thanks for having us on. Pretty much every day I'm having conversations with my customers as product manager for data protection around ransomware, and we're hearing some really scary stories. Just today I saw a headline about Acer having like a $15 million payout to get their data back. Can you do you know more about that, Sam?
Yes, of course. And this kind of ransoms nowadays are not uncommon. In fact, latest report from Sophos Labs have shown that from fourth quarter of 2019 to third quarter of 2020, the ransoms went up from 84. Average ransom went up from 84 to $234,000. And those are scary figures. Why do they grow so much? Because hackers, criminals behind ransomware, they know who they are attacking. They go after Acer, they go after specific company, United Healthcare Services, or something else like that. And they know the executives within the company, they know the annual turnovers. They would usually ask from 1 to 5% of revenue. That's why the numbers went up so much. There are other very scary ransomware trends. For example, ransomware as a service. The criminals, the hackers who carry out those brazen attacks, they're very often not even computer specialists or cybersecurity or programmers. What they do, they go to on the dark web websites and sign up for a ransomware code published by the programmers, and they carry out attacks. They're more specialists in social engineering and being criminals than being programmers. Another trend we have observed is customer support hotlines, where when the prompt comes up, your data was encrypted, pay half a Bitcoin to recover your data. There would be also a prompt, if you have a problem paying those Bitcoins, please call this number and we will help you. That's as brazen as it can be. And the IT transformation complicates ransomware defenses. Many of you have observed that. 10 years ago, there were just servers and clients, or 15 years ago. Now there is a legacy workloads, endpoints, Internet of Things, networks are more complicated, cloud infrastructure, cloud source, edge, and of course our friends from Nutanix, from you, Mark, are helping to resolve those issues by consolidating everything under the Nutanix cloud platform. But still, those legacy systems, as well as endpoints, is where the ransomware could come in.
So please join us at our deep dive. I will, like Sam says, discuss in detail what layers of protection you can build in your data center.
And now a quick introductory video for what you are about to see. And of course, we hope to see you on the deep dive.
It's estimated that every 11 seconds, there's a ransomware attack. The immediate effects of an attack are familiar, with victims experiencing downtime, data loss, ransom payments. While the immediate impacts of cyber attacks may seem obvious, the longer-term damage to consumer trust cannot be ignored. 70% of consumers believe businesses are not doing enough to secure their data and believe it's been compromised without their knowing. 59% of consumers are likely to avoid doing business with an organization that experienced an attack in the past year. And 1 in 4 consumers will abandon a product or service in favor of a competitor after just a single ransomware-related event. If you don't focus on cyber and data security, your customers, current and future, will notice. ArcServe and Sophos, combined with Nutanix, creates a proactive, multi-layer approach to cyber and data protection to help you achieve better IT resilience faster, even in today's highly complex IT environments. These integrations allow you to withstand any threat with a robust first and last line of defense against ransomware. Defend your backups with cutting-edge cybersecurity, powered by a deep learning neural network to detect known and unknown malware. Rapidly respond to and remove threats with tools using behavioral analysis to negate unprecedented attacks. Deploy immutable backups with image-based data protection to safeguard against external threats, disasters, human error, and unplanned outages. Safely and quickly spin up copies of physical or virtual systems on-site using built-in AHV integration or off-site in private or public clouds while neutralizing threats and eliminating data loss and downtime. ArcServe appliances secured by Sophos are the leading choice for IT pros looking for an all-in-one solution with a central interface for backup processes, tools, and infrastructure. With native Nutanix integration, you can prevent data loss, reduce RTOs and RPOs to minutes and seconds, recover directly to Nutanix AHV, as well as other hypervisors, clouds, and bare metal servers. Automate RTO and RPO validation. Ensure complete safety with role-based administration. The appliance streamlines protection by combining storage, server processing, networking, hardware, cloud services, and cyber and data protection capabilities, all deployable in 15 minutes or less. ArcServe UDP Cloud Hybrid, secured by Sophos, is a fully managed service extension to ArcServe UDP software and appliances. Going beyond traditional cloud backup, it offers cohesive data security, protection, and retention. This additional integration allows you to copy your backup to cloud secured by AI, accelerate DR by spinning up copies of Nutanix VMs in the cloud, enable cloud-based RPO, RTO, and SLA validations, support any-to-any recovery to and from cloud. You need a simplified, smarter approach to being cyber ready, reducing complexity, improving SLAs, and leaving the risks of cyber attacks and data loss behind.
All right, cool presentation there from Mark and Sam. Thank you very much. I've just brought up the poll question that says, would you like to receive an invitation to the Nutanix and ArcServe deep dive session? This is taking place on Thursday. It's going to be a discussion where Mark and Sam will talk about the latest innovations around ransomware prevention from Nutanix and ArcServe. So I'll leave this poll question up here for a moment, let everyone respond to this while I announce our next iPhone 12 prize winner. All right, we've got another iPhone 12. This is going out to Thomas Devine from Massachusetts. Congratulations. Thomas Devine from Massachusetts will reach out to you to deliver your new iPhone 12 in your choice of color. Excellent. All right. Thank you, everyone who responded there to the poll question on the screen. Let's keep the Discovery Day event moving here. And with that, it's time for our next presenter. welcome Mr. Dave Birmingham, Technical Evangelist at Sios. Dave, it's great to have you. Take it away.
Thanks, Dave, for that great introduction. I'm glad to be part of the program today. In this brief presentation, I'll be touching on some of the things you should consider when running business-critical workloads in AWS. But don't forget to join me on day 2 of Discovery Days, where I'll dig a little bit deeper and explore this topic fully. Before we begin, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Dave Birmingham. I've been with Sios Technology for 17 years now. My current role is Senior Technical Evangelist. And Sios, as you'll learn in a moment, is a software company focused on high availability disaster recovery solutions for Windows and Linux. So my role, I really have a lot of experience helping people design and deploy high availability for Windows and Linux. And really for the past 5+ years, most of that business has been in the cloud. So I hope I can give you some valuable information today as you are looking at moving into the cloud. So the presentation is focused on AWS. Now, when considering a public cloud, of course, you have many fine offerings in AWS. Azure and Google are really the big 3, but there are other solutions nipping at their heels, vying for your business. While any of the public cloud solutions available today are viable solutions, AWS is clearly the leader. They simply have been in the game longer than the other providers. Gartner has them listed in the 2020 Magic Quadrant for cloud infrastructure and platform services as the most completeness of vision and the highest ability to execute. When you're looking at your cloud platform providers, you have to consider a few things. You're going to look at security, right? So not only the data centers need to be secure, but your network needs to be encrypted. So AWS was custom built for the cloud and designed to meet the most stringent security requirements. I don't think you're going to have any problems there with security. Availability, another consideration. You'll see that AWS has over 25 regions, with 5 more regions scheduled to come online soon. And then each region has at least 3, if not 4, availability zones, which are going to be important when deploying highly available applications. And these availability zones are fully isolated partitions of their infrastructure. Their control planes as well, their interface has been designed in such a way that the failure of a region, even if it was disconnected from the primary control endpoint, it can operate securely for at least 24 hours before you'd have to connect to another region. So availability is built from the ground up with some caveats, which we'll describe in a moment. Performance obviously is an issue. The AWS and really all the cloud providers, they're always one-upping each other. So whether it's at the infrastructure for the storage or for your virtual machines, virtual instances, AWS is great. They offer a very low latency, low packet loss, and high overall network quality. They have redundant 10 gigabit fiber network backbone. So you're not going to have a problem there. They even have other offerings, newer offerings, which are unique to AWS, such as AWS Wavelength, which is a partnership with telecom providers to provide low latency connections for 5G connected devices. So lots of options for performance. We'll take a closer look at that on day 2. Global footprint, as I mentioned, 25 regions. They have the largest global infrastructure footprint of any of the providers. So you're going to not have a problem finding a location close to you. And even if you want to get your data from a satellite, they have the AWS ground station, which provides satellite antennas in close proximity to AWS regions. Scalability. The AWS global infrastructure enables companies to take advantage of infinite scalability in the cloud. So you'll find that you can set up scale sets that will increase and decrease as your customers' demand increases as well. Flexibility, they really give you lots of options. So from infrastructure as a service, software as a service, there's going to be ways for you to leverage their solutions to provide great flexibility in running your applications in the cloud. So who is Silos Technology? As I mentioned, I've been here 17 years. I joined shortly after they were founded back in 1999. They have a headquarters in San Mateo, offices around the world, lots of licenses installed globally. We're partners with all the major cloud service providers. With AWS, we are an advanced technology partner. We're a Microsoft partner, of course, as well. And we're really recognized in the industry as application and disaster recovery experts. That's our focus. We do that through software solutions that solve critical customer issues. We enable in the cloud, we enable high availability on cloud and virtualization platforms. So whether it's VMware, Microsoft Azure, AWS, Hyper-V, XenServer, you name it, we have solutions that will run on physical, virtual, and cloud platforms for both Windows and Linux. And then also you can leverage our solutions in a hybrid cloud type solution for disaster recovery. So you might want to leverage the cloud as a disaster recovery location, and our software allows you to stretch your on-premise application into the cloud with real-time data replication and recovery for a very robust cloud-based disaster recovery solution. So we talk about business critical, we throw that word around. Just like on-premise, you have to have a business continuity plan. Your business continuity plan is not just a technology plan of how to put things back together when they fall apart, but it's really a comprehensive plan that includes every aspect of your business, from the technology to the people to the infrastructure, across the board. And out of that business continuity plan, there should be a disaster recovery plan. There also should be some guidance in terms of, defining which applications truly are business critical, the ones that need to be up and running, that have the most stringent recovery time objectives, recovery point objectives. Also, you'll be defining which applications need high availability protection, which applications maybe don't need high availability, but kind of medium availability. So all that work is done. But once you have done that work, you're going to identify those systems which are business critical, and they're the ones that we're going to be addressing here with high availability solutions. And high availability really ensures your application stays online 99.99% of the time. That's the bottom line for high availability. 4 nines. It's pretty industry standard. Anything less than 4 nines, you're not getting high availability. You might have decent availability, but 4 nines means you're less than 5 minutes of downtime per month. And there's zero data loss. So this is availability for typical or maybe expected failures, or even planned downtime. So you want to eliminate downtime. Unplanned is one thing, but planned is more likely. So with high availability solutions, you're typically accounting for both planned and unplanned downtimes to minimize the amount of time that your application is offline. Versus disaster recovery, which is really having a plan for when things really go wrong. In the cloud, that would mean a big disaster where you lose an entire region. Could be mechanical failure, could be more likely a person pushed the wrong button, did some wrong route update. But it could be, again, a regional type of disaster, a weather event, or something along those lines. And so it's the unexpected. And so you need to have a plan for that as well. But typically your disaster recovery plan allows a little bit more leniency in terms of your recovery time objective and your recovery point objective. So disaster recovery, you might be expecting some amount of data loss is acceptable, and your recovery time objective is a little bit more lenient. So you might be able to, have a 15-minute, 1 hour, 8-hour, 2-day. Again, all defined in your business continuity plan. Some applications are going to have to come online quicker than others. And so SIOS enables both high availability and disaster recovery solutions through our software. Again, it works pretty much the same on Windows or Linux. Linux is a complete solution called the SIOS Protection Suite, which includes DataKeeper replication and LifeKeeper for high availability. And on Windows, we have DataKeeper, which integrates with Windows failover clustering that enables you to build what we call SandList clusters. So a traditional cluster looks something like this, with 2 or more nodes connected to shared storage. Of course, shared storage is not available in the cloud when you want to cross those availability zones like we talked about. So what our solutions do, a couple things. Pictures here SQL Server, but again, this could be any business critical workload. We're going to do the real-time block level replication synchronously between availability zones or asynchronously between regions. And then when there's a failure on the primary server, we're going to automate the recovery on the secondary server with 0 data loss and bring things online. And all that happens automatically. Also, you can have a combination of high availability where you might fail locally here between availability zones in the same region, but then also replicate to a third node for disaster recovery using asynchronous replication into a different region. And then we can also leverage the cloud as a disaster recovery site. So we can take your existing infrastructure and replicate it off-site for disaster recovery. So you still have your local HA happening as always, but then replicate asynchronously to a third node for disaster recovery. And we're going to talk a little bit about cost savings. And, SIOS is going to help you in many different ways. And we talked a little bit about cost savings earlier with being able to downsize undersize your DR instance, but also using SIOS, we can save you money on your application licensing as well. So for example, SQL Server Standard Edition with DataKeeper for high availability cost as much as 71% less than using SQL Server Enterprise for the always-on availability group solution. So that's just one example of the cost savings options you have with the SIOS solutions. So I know I gave you kind of a high-level overview of a lot of topics, but I really hope to see you in our deep dive session on day 2 of Discovery Days, where we can spend a little bit more time on these topics. Thank you.
All right, great presentation, Dave. We do appreciate that. Very interesting what you guys are doing all around cloud management, optimization, especially when it comes to performance and migration and cost. So great topic. I know this is really important to a lot of companies out there. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone that says, or would you like to receive an invitation to the deep dive session that's taking place on Thursday? Like I said earlier, of course, if you can't make the session, no worries. Just say yes, and you will get a link to the recording so that you can learn more about the SIOS deep dive and exactly what this SIOS solution can do to help you. So I'll leave that up while I announce our next prize winner. We've got another iPhone 12. This one's going out to Kevin King from Washington, D.C. Congratulations. We'll reach out to deliver that iPhone. And for anyone out there, if you're having trouble answering the poll, you don't see the yes or no, or you can't click on it, simply push refresh on your web browser, and 99% of the time, that will resolve any sort of trouble with the poll questions. All right, thank you to everyone who responded to the poll. Again, if you don't see the poll, try a refresh on your web browser. Chrome is the recommended web browser. Firefox works as well. Typically, Microsoft Edge will work as well if you're having any trouble. All right, thank you to everyone who responded to that one. Let's go ahead and move on now to our next presentation on today's Discovery Day. I'm excited now to introduce Corinne Bissett, Technologist for Product Strategy, and Mr. Rick Vanover, Senior Director of Technical Product Marketing, both at Veeam. Corinne and Rick, it's great to have you. Take it away.
Hi there, and welcome to this Veeam info session overviewing Veeam Backup and Replication V11. My name's Rick, and I'm joined by Corinne. She's over on the light board. We're going to hand it over to her in a second, but let's get into it. Veeam Backup and Replication is an incredible release. Over 200 new and enhanced capabilities. This is providing an incredible 4-in-1 solution that provides backups, replicas, storage snapshot management, and CDP. What we're going to do in this session is give a quick tour. We're going to demo one of the features, and we're also going to hit one on the light board. Let's take a look at what V11 has to offer. Now, the reality is you need to expect more from backup and data protection. V11 is that solution to help you do that. Highlighting some of the new and enhanced capabilities, let's go through them swiftly. Number 1, continuous data protection. This is a great one. What would you do if you had the best RTOs, the best RPOs? Well, now you can do that. You can have continuous data protection for your VMs. Really, really powerful stuff, and easy to use and low cost of acquisition here. You really got to check this capability out. The second is one that's near and dear to my heart, and we're going to go through a demo of that one here in a second. That's reliable ransomware recovery. Yet another way that you have that type of protection here with Veeam. The hardened Linux repository, good stuff. The second one is archiving data to the cloud. Using ultra low cost storages in the cloud is a very attractive way today to meet that long-term retention requirement. Corinne's going to do that on the light board here in just a moment. And then an expanded set of instant recovery. Veeam has been the leader in instant recovery for mainstream backup solutions, and we're providing great enhancements to the database space, the file share space, and any image-based backup to Hyper-V. And then consuming Veeam as a service. This is really attractive. If you want to have managed backups, DR as a service, all kinds of other as a service offerings, Veeam has the technologies to help you do that. So what I want to do now, let's hand it over to Corinne so she can overview the Veeam archive tier.
Thank you, Rick. Before we hop directly into the archive tier, let's take a closer look at the scale-out repository as a whole in its 3-tiered system. Starting off with the performance tier. The performance tier is your on-prem storage unit that allows you to group together storage into a logical repository like we have right here. So we'll group these 3 repositories into one, making what's called an SDS, or software-defined storage. This can be made up of Linux machines, Windows machines, and various different types of storage appliances. That makes one logical unit to send your backups to. Then we come over to offloading to what we call a capacity tier. A capacity tier will send all of your data all the way over to object storage. Why do you care? Well, object storage is infinitely expandable or contractible when it comes to data size. So if you need a smaller unit, there is a smaller unit available. Or if you are growing at a rapid pace, this storage unit will grow with you without having to worry about your on-prem infrastructure scaling out, managing that space in hard drives or any other type of storage appliance, which is great. Now we come to what is archive tier. Archive tier is a archival object storage type, such as Amazon Glacier or Azure Archive, as we have here and here. What we'll do is offload those older backups, such as GFS or grandfather-son or grandfather-father-son points, to this archival storage. Now, this archival storage is a bit slower, so it's not as great for performance on resource, but where it does make up is in cost. This is a much cheaper type of storage, so if you do need to keep long-term backup points, archival storage, archival object storage is your best option. Now, going a step further to your on-prem environment, you can use either a Linux XFS repository or Windows REF repository and use a technology called fast clone. This fast clone will save space on your on-prem environment and integrate into your offload to object storage. So if we look at this little guy that turns into an XFS repository type, with Linux, we have an additional advantage when it comes in the battle against ransomware. We can make this into a hardened repository, meaning that no one can access that repository or delete anything from that repository because there is a lock on those backup files. You could have a lock here, and then within your archival, or your capacity tier, you can have an object lock here and another one on your archival storage unit, creating a 3-tiered system of locking your backups in place and making them immutable against ransomware. Back to you, Rick.
Thanks, Corinne. That was a great overview of the archive tier and the scale-out backup repository. What I want to cover now is reliable ransomware protection with native immutable backups. So this is yet another way that Veeam can help our customers be resilient against ransomware and the many threats against your data. So let's go through this real quickly. So the first thing I want to highlight is what's causing this type of capability to be something that Veeam puts in the product and takes to market. Well, first, there's a lot of risk of cyber threats, and I think you all are aware of this. You may have had an incident, know someone who has had an incident, or otherwise are concerned. There's, advanced threats. They're looking at primary storage. These threats are looking at backup storage. So what we've done is implemented a native, immutable, and malware-safe copy of your backup data. This hardened Linux repository is really powerful in that the backups you take with V11 are immutable. Therefore, you can have good confidence knowing that they're not at risk of being changed or altered. And the other thing to note is this also prevents any accidental deletion or maybe some insider threat type of protection as well. And the best part is there's no additional Veeam cost to implement this as it's on any Linux device. So let's take a look at this quick demo. So I'm going to add a Linux repository. So this IP 40.126 is going to be a hardened Linux repository. So let's just go ahead and add it. One of the cool things about this implementation is that we're using a single-use credential. So this is a great way to pass in a username context that is only used one time to be elevated for the installation of these credentials that are the services that are going to be the data movers and such that go on this Linux system. So let's go ahead and put those in. So that credential is going to install the Linux server, and you'll see at the top it says new Linux server. So that means that the services associated with writing backups, the data mover, etc., that's all going to be deployed on that Linux system now. So let's let that proceed. And if you've ever added a Windows or a Linux system before, this is very similar. The big difference is that single-use credential and then how we configure the usage of the repository here in a moment. So over here, I have one hardened repository already configured, but I'm going to add another one. It does show up as direct attached storage. So let's go ahead and call it hardened Linux repository 1. 126 is the address of this particular system, and let's query it. So those services, the data mover and others that are put out there, we're getting a list of what's on that system, and that backups point is where we're going to put the data. And here's where it gets really specific. Once we connect to this server, there's two options. One, the fast cloning, which is a nice storage efficiency, and this one, making backups immutable for 7 days. This is so powerful. This is very impactful when you think about how you're going to store your backups and make sure that they're not subject to ransomware, malware, or other malicious activity. So basically, sitting in the Veeam console now is another repository that's marked as immutable. So the other one that's already configured is in there already, the hardened Linux repository, and then this one that we added is called Hardened Linux Repository 1. So what we can go do is take a look at where we put our backups. So this particular job was already set up on the other one, and you'll see that it's marked as immutable for a period of time. This immutability is a property of the backups we've written on these Linux systems. It's not a property of the Veeam console. The good news is you could completely lose this Veeam console, but those files that are written on those Linux repository, those rules about the immutability, that stays with them. So it's very easy for you to use, very transparent. And even if you're crafty with things like delete commands in Linux, the attributes of those individual files prohibit you from being able to delete those backups. So I hope that quick look was really effective. Now, this is just the start of V11. There's so much more to it, and I hope that you can go check out some of the resources that we have here at Veeam. So first of all, what you might want to do is go to veeam.com and download a trial. There, you can get this copy of software in your hands, run it today. Secondly, you might want to go on over to the Veeam blog. Corinne, myself, and a number of others on our team have shared a number of different highlights of the new capabilities, and we have a number of white papers that you can go download some of these capabilities in general. So I hope that you've liked what you've seen. Check us out online, check us out at the website, and thanks for watching this quick info session.
All right, that was a really cool presentation from the Veeam team. Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Corinne. I love the Lightboard video there. I wish I had one of those myself because it just gives such an impressive presentation. So thank you for taking the extra time to create that for the Discovery Day participants here. And of course, thank you for the demo as well. It was cool to see the product in action. If you're interested in Veeam out there and you like what you saw, you want to learn more, I've just brought up the poll question for you there on the screen. Would you like to receive an invitation to the Veeam deep dive session happening on Thursday? Even if you can't make it, no worries. Just say yes if you're interested, and we will send you a link to the recording after that deep dive session happens. These are just 25-minute deep dive sessions, so they don't take too much time. The goal is to let you see the product in action and get all your questions answered. I'll leave that poll up while I announce our next iPhone 12 winner. This is going to Rishi Jain from California. Congratulations, Rishi Jain from California. Still 4 more iPhone 12s to give out on the Discovery Day event today, so stay tuned for those. All right, I'll leave the poll question up here for one more moment while I respond to some of these questions to give you time to answer it if you haven't done so already. All right, thank you everyone who responded to that. We do appreciate that. Let's go ahead and move on now to the next presentation on today's Discovery Day event. I'm excited now to introduce you to Suhas Nayak, Director of Product Marketing at Clumio. Suhas, it's great to have you. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Actual Tech Media Discovery Day session on cloud data protection. I am Suhas Nayak with Clumio, and today I will be doing a quick introduction to Clumio, which is a SaaS data protection as a service for AWS. Let's start by looking at a key shift we are seeing in the industry before we look at cloud data protection. This is the continued growth in organizations adopting the public cloud for on-demand services. And as shown on this slide, it is happening at the expense of on-prem IT spend. For example, IT spend in 2020 was less than that in the previous year. And on the other hand, the spend on infrastructure as a service in the public cloud is just growing. In fact, it is expected to grow by almost 27% this year. So why is this shift to the public cloud happening? There are several reasons, but if I had to pin down some key factors, they would be the instantaneous value you get by consuming on-demand services made readily available to you by the public cloud. Then that in turn helps drive innovation at a much faster pace compared to on-premises, where it would take a long time to upgrade to the latest and greatest technologies. You can now offload the maintenance of your IT infrastructure to the cloud as well, and that allows you to shift your time and resources to things that are core to your business. And last but not the least, cloud has been the enabler for digital transformation, the enabler for a subscription-based services model that in turn enables organizations to use services from anywhere in the world and on a true as-needed basis. And what I mean by that is organizations can start a service when there is a need for it, and then shut it off when they don't need it anymore. So they only truly pay for what they consume. And the part of consuming these services from anywhere in the world, that has really shown its benefits over the last year during the pandemic. So these are the main reasons that are causing the cloud adoption to grow really rapidly. And the cloud adoption is only going to increase. So we can comfortably say that the cloud is here to stay, and it's going to grow for the foreseeable future. Now, what it also means is that we are going to see an increase in production applications shifting from on-premises into the cloud, as well as new applications being built in the cloud. And both of these activities will be causing a lot of critical data to be generated in the cloud that now needs to be secured and protected. That brings us to the topic of data protection in the cloud. Now, while there are several benefits that the cloud provides that we just spoke about, data protection in the cloud has several gaps. In fact, it is a shared responsibility, and organizations need to own responsibility of protecting their data in the cloud. So let's look at these gaps, which you will need to own and have a plan for, right? So number one, when it comes to restoring data in the cloud using native cloud services, it takes a very long time. Now, keep in mind that backing up data securely is just half the story. Being able to recover in time when needed is the other half. And if you cannot recover in time, it can be detrimental to your business. Next, implementing a comprehensive data protection strategy in the cloud using native backup services is very complex. And they also do not provide all the key functionalities that are required. This results in introducing errors because now you will be writing scripts or figuring out ways how you can add those functionalities back that are missing in the native services. And by doing so, you could potentially introduce a lot of errors. You may not be able to keep up on updating your scripts and manual processes as your needs to protect data increases. Right. So, and these errors can be really costly to live with. So that's the complexity piece here. And then the next one is there is a complete lack of visibility in your data protection plans. And what I mean by this is it is very hard to get a simple view of all the assets you're protecting with their corresponding policies. It is hard to see if you are in compliance or drifting away from compliance. There is no way to have this view across all your accounts and regions as well. So you're not only limited in the visibility that you're getting, you are also limited to having that limited view one account at a time. So that's a big gap as well. And then finally, with the limited capabilities in the native services for data protection, you end up implementing backup and recovery in a very inefficient manner, which results in much higher costs than it should take. So to leverage the benefits of the cloud, you need to pay attention to these gaps, as you will need to implement a sound, solid data protection plan for your data in the cloud, just like you needed it on premises. And that's exactly why we decided to build Clumio, to help our customers close these gaps. In fact, our mission is to deliver a data protection service for AWS that is super simple to manage. There is no additional infrastructure or AWS resources that you need to maintain in your account. It is just one single service that works across all native AWS data sources, as well as VMC workloads. And it takes less than 15 minutes to start protecting your assets in AWS, all the way from creating an account in Clumio to discovering your AWS assets, and then finally protecting them as well. There are no hidden charges. With Clumio, you simply pay for what you consume and nothing more. You won't have to spin up and manage EC2 instances or EBS volumes in your account to run our service. There are no limits on the number of restores you can do, as well as no egress charges for saving backup data into the Clumio service. Our platform also leverages the cloud to scale on demand. That means you don't need to figure out complex sizing requirements before you start using our service. You can start small by protecting just a few gigabytes of data and then scale to protecting all the way up to petabytes of data, and our platform will scale accordingly. No need to decide on reserving upfront resources or capacity. All data and all data is compressed, encrypted, and deduped before it is sent to the Clumio service. So the bandwidth utilization is extremely efficient too. Last but not the least, with Clumio, you get true air gap protection by default. That means the Clumio backups are stored outside of your AWS domain. So in the event that your account gets compromised, say by ransomware or bad actors, your Clumio backups will not be impacted, enabling a guaranteed path to recovery from the compromise. So in a nutshell, what you get with Clumio is data protection for AWS that has 10x faster restore times, that is 10x more secure, that has 10x better visibility, and delivers a solution that has simple management and a simple experience all the way from setup to backup and recovery to monitoring your protection plans. And you get all these benefits at up to 55% cost savings versus AWS backup. And to see exactly how this is done in Clumio, I would highly encourage you to attend our deep dive session on day 2, where Joe Ferguson will demonstrate live how all these functionalities are accomplished within Clumio. And I'm sure you will love to see Clumio in action. So with that, thank you for your time. And I will look forward to seeing you on day 2.
Great presentation, Suhas. Really appreciate the information there on Clumio and how it's a SaaS-based data protection and disaster recovery solution. Sounds like it could help so many companies out there dealing with challenges around ransomware protection, rapid recovery, and simply just making disaster recovery easier and more affordable. So if you are interested in the Clumio solution, I encourage you to respond here to the poll question. Would you like to receive an invite to the Clumio deep dive that's happening on Thursday? Simply respond yes there to the poll. Again, if you can't make the session, we'll send you an email with a link to the recording. No worries, you can check it out at your leisure. So with that, I'll leave up the poll while I announce another big iPhone winner. We've got our next iPhone 12. This is going to Vin Nguyen from Massachusetts. Congratulations, Vin Nguyen from Massachusetts. I'll be posting all the prize winners in the questions box there. If I mispronounced your name, you might want to check that out. All right, still 3 more iPhone 12s to give out on the Discovery Day event today. So make sure you stay tuned for our next 3 presentations still coming up. All right, I'll let everyone respond there to the poll. I'll give you a moment to do that while I respond to some of the questions that have come in. Thank you for those. All right, thank you to everyone who responded to the poll. And thank you for all the great comments and questions as well. And with that, let's keep the Discovery Day here moving. Let's go ahead and go on now to our next presentation. I'm excited to introduce Caroline Seymour, Vice President of Product Marketing at Zerto. Caroline, it's great to have you on the event. Take it away.
Hello. My name is Caroline Seymour, and I'd like to take the next few minutes to talk to you about how you can achieve a 24/7 business with the Zerto platform. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about Zerto. Now, we've been in business since about 2009 when we first introduced hypervisor-based replication that really changed how disaster recovery was done. We are a global company with over 9,000 customers now across all industries in about 75 different countries. And we have offices in US, Europe, as well as also Israel. And we have strategic partnerships and alliances that we work with to ensure that we work with those vendors that are strategic to your business. And our vision is to enable an uninterrupted world for all of technology users, consumers, and businesses. And so when you look at what we do and how we can help you in your business, essentially we help companies like yours to manage, protect, recover, and move data and applications across on-premises or the cloud, and we do that in a single, simple, scalable platform. Now, our platform is software only, and it's based on a foundation of continuous data protection, converging the functions of disaster recovery, continuous backup, long-term retention, and data mobility and migrations, as well as test and development. And it also enables security and compliance that you need. And so there are many use cases that you can actually use Zerto for. Orchestration and automation are built into the platform so that you can automate those manual processes. And analytics is also built into the platform that has out-of-the-box dashboards and reports that provides complete visibility across your multi-site, multi-cloud environment. And being software only, the platform is storage and hardware agnostic with deep integration into the strategic vendors that you see here, whether that's on premises, whether it's hybrid cloud, or whether it's cloud native. So let's talk about the Zerto difference, because what I'd like to do is help you understand why we're different than other solutions. And it really does come down to three key differentiators. Zerto's continuous data protection has a unique journaling, near synchronous replication, and application recovery so that downtime and data loss is really down to seconds and minutes compared to, say, hours and days of other solutions. And whether you're on premises today or you're looking at cloud, our platform provides the most flexibility for that workload mobility, disaster recovery, and backup to the cloud and across clouds. And then lastly, is simplicity at scale with its built-in orchestration and automation and analytics. But let's take a look at each one of these in a little bit more detail. So let's start as we look at continuous data protection, specifically near synchronous replication. And our replication is done at the hypervisor level, which means that the backend infrastructure could be anything. So effectively hardware storage agnostic, cloud or on premises. And there are no snapshots, agents, scheduling, or hardware actually required. And there is absolutely no in-production impact. Zerto is software only with very, very simple deployment. And the second piece, as you look at continuous data protection, is the granular point-in-time recovery with our journal. And the journal is very, very powerful and it's unique. It provides that granular point-in-time recovery. So for example, if you're attacked with ransomware, at 10:05, you can recover and simply rewind to within 5 seconds before an attack. And recovery can be, say, from seconds, or it can be to years, since we combine the journal with long-term retention repositories. And of course, this can be across sites and applications and VMs, as well as also files. And then lastly is the consistent recovery of applications. And so to solve for the challenge of recovering complex enterprise applications, you need to protect your VMs as a cohesive logical entity. And that way you avoid the inconsistent recovery of multi-VM applications. And so with Zerto, when creating recovery points, all the VMs will share the exact same recovery point so that when the application is recovered, every VM that contains the application spins up from that same cross-application recovery point. This allows you to replicate and recover complex multi-VM applications as one logical, cohesive unit to the exact same point in time. And this, of course, saves you tons of resources when you're trying to reduce the amount of time that's dedicated to recovery. And so if you're looking at cloud, there is really no other solution that supports your cloud journey like we do. So whether that's enabling your workload mobility, say between private clouds, assisting you in transitioning from, say, private cloud to public cloud by enabling a hybrid cloud environment, or perhaps you're trying to remove your private cloud and enable migration to a public cloud, supporting really a shift to a multi-cloud environment. You have complete flexibility, whatever your cloud strategy and journey is. And what's important here too is that we have the tightest integration. You know, we have seamless VM conversion, automated configuration and re-IP as needed. We also use native services like the scale sets, queues, and storage that have been expressly designed to maximize availability and minimize data loss. And with over 450 managed service providers that use Zerto to offer cloud services like DR as a service, we provide the most flexibility and support for your cloud journey. And so lastly, let's look at simplicity at scale. And I know a lot of vendors, say this, but it's absolutely a core tenet of our platform. So we have one interface, one experience, and that's whether it's on premises or cloud. The implementation and deployment is fast, and then the ongoing maintenance is made easy. And the easiest way to see this, of course, is to try it. And I'll tell you how you can do that in a moment. Our built-in orchestration allows you to really automate those manual processes, and which saves you on the resource as well as also time. And the analytics and reporting provide that full multi-site visibility and compliance reporting. So let me finish with just a few customer examples and how Zerto is delivering ROI to them. As I said, organizations large and small are using Zerto for many different use cases. Here, for example, are 4 examples. A lot of organizations struggle with time spent on operational production support processes, and Starbucks is one of these companies, and they were able to decrease the time that they spent by 16 times. Downtime, as we all can appreciate, is not an option these days, as the cost to a company can be catastrophic. United now uses Zerto to protect their website and applications, which is critical to their business, as they generate about $1 million per hour. So a downtime can be pretty catastrophic for them. As part of a DR strategy, HCA adopted Zerto to really reduce the number of DR solutions that they had down from 4 to 1. And so this not only reduced the complexity that they had, but look at the significant cost savings. And then lastly, another good example of consolidation here is XPO Logistics. And they had an aggressive M&A strategy, which required them to consolidate 21 data centers to 6, and they achieved that in just under 36 months. So those are a few examples of how we're delivering ROI to customers. But let me finish by suggesting a couple of ways to find out more about Zerto. We have, of course, lots of content on Zerto.com. But if you want to try Zerto firsthand, try one of our labs. And if you'd like to see the TCO that you could get from Zerto, try our online calculator. And lastly, what better way to find out about Zerto than from your peers? So go to Gartner Peer Insights or IT Central and read some great reviews that really do provide an honest look at Zerto. And so with that, what I'd like to do is thank you for your time today and hope you found this of value.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Really great presentation. I learned a lot about Zerto in just a short time there. And for anyone who's interested in learning more about Zerto, I encourage you to respond here to the poll question I've just brought up. Would you like to receive an invite to the Zerto Deep Dive session taking place tomorrow? Of course, we appreciate your response to the poll, and I'll leave that up while I announce our next prize winner. We got a lot of great feedback from folks here on the event about Zerto, saying they use Zerto for DR, love Zerto, great presentation. So a lot of great feedback, a lot of Zerto love, if you will, out there in the audience. Do appreciate that. And so our next prize winner for another iPhone 12, this is going to Thomas Mollet from Wisconsin. Congratulations, Thomas Mollet from Wisconsin. We'll reach out to you to deliver that prize. And I've still got 2 more iPhone 12s to give out on the webinar or on the Discovery Day event today. So stay tuned. 2 more presentations and 2 more iPhone 12s. All right, thanks to everyone who responded to the poll. We do appreciate that. Let's keep the Discovery Day moving here. And with that, I'm excited to introduce you to our next presenter. Welcome, Zoe Lindsay, Security Strategist at Duo. Zoe, it's great to have you. Take it away.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining for today's Spotlight session. We're going to take a couple of minutes and talk about secure access with Duo Security. Now, why are we talking about secure access? Haven't we had tools like VPNs and VDIs to help us handle that for years now? Well, we've seen a shift in the IT landscape, especially over the last year. Whereas previously we were typically working within the network perimeter protected by our firewall or NAC tools. Increasingly, we've seen resources move outside of that traditional perimeter, and we need to figure out how we handle those in our security strategy. We now need to increasingly handle remote users, users with personal and mobile devices, cloud and hybrid hosted applications, as well as infrastructure outside of our environment. Now, that can be intimidating at first and can quickly lead to a great deal of complexity. But if we take a step back and look at the big problems, we still see the same main culprits that are the source of breaches. 77% of cloud breaches still involve weak or stolen user credentials. 70% of breaches originate at the endpoint. These stats have not changed much in the last several years. We know that compromised user credentials and compromised devices are going to be the biggest holes in our armor that we are going to need to address when we're figuring out our remote access plan. So we can start by answering the questions, how do you stop attacks that use stolen but legitimate credentials? And how do you prevent devices with poor security hygiene from accessing critical applications? Well, strong MFA has traditionally handled the first of those questions. How do you handle stolen but legitimate credentials? You do a strong second factor. But why is it important to diagnose devices with poor security hygiene? We know 99% of vulnerabilities through the end of last year were already known to IT teams, as estimated by Gartner analysts. And the reason for this thinking is that those are the attacks that are effective to launch at scale. Those are attacks that almost always have patches available, but are still successful because devices are out of date. So let's start with validating that user. We want to make sure that we have a variety of ways to do so, from the most common and probably familiar to you push authentication method that I'm going to show you in just a moment, to more traditional telephony options, soft and hardware tokens, as well as more modern authentication solutions like U2F tokens, hardware tokens, biometrics, and wearables. We want to make sure that there are flexible options that will cover every user in every situation. Now, while most users are going to opt for push, that being the easiest method that leverages the smart device already in their pocket, that may not work for every user. And so we want to make sure that there are alternatives for those other users available. In the deep dive session, we'll take a look at how you can limit and remove some of these factor options if you don't wish to use them. We talk a lot about usability. And when I flip over here to show you a push, you're going to see that when that user goes to get logged in, they're going to enter their username and their password. Now we can see here that their browser is out of date. We're getting a warning there. We'll come back to that in just a second. But right now we're going to send that push notification to that user. And here we're going to get some contextual information. We're going to see the company logo, who's logging in into what service, the user that is logging in, their IP address and location based on geolocation, and the time of that request. Now from here, they can either approve or deny. If they deny this, they can actually report this as a potentially fraudulent authentication request, and that will immediately alert the admin so that they can react in the course of that potential attack. But if they recognize it, they can just hit approve, and they'll be almost instantly logged in. Now here, this device is out of date, so we can see we're getting an opportunity to update that, but they can also go back through to that resource. So here we've got our user, they go to log in. Now let's say that we've got a hardware token. We can actually tap right on that enrolled hardware token, and that'll get you logged in as well. You can do the same thing with a WebAuthn integration and leverage the advantage of Touch ID for users with MacBooks as well. Now we spent a good amount of time talking about the importance of usability, streamlining this interface, providing tools to the users so that they are able to make these changes themselves. And the idea here is that good usability supports good security. This is a good example of this that we'd like to take a look at based on some research from Duo's Trusted Access Report, which we release annually. Several years back, we noticed that there was a much higher rate of application of lock screens on devices that supported a biometric factor. 93% of devices that could support Touch ID or a fingerprint authentication on Android devices had a lock screen enabled, whereas only 78% of devices without either of those biometric options that only supported a pattern or a pin lock had that lock screen enabled. That's a significant difference, and having that unsecured device represents a significant risk. So by adding some usability, by making it more convenient for users, by letting them use that biometric method, then it makes it more likely that they're going to follow the security process that we want them to, which is to lock that device and protect against theft. So this is how Duo starts to apply that zero trust approach to authentication. We're still going to start with that user requesting authentication access. We're going to prompt that user through an enrolled device to validate with strong authentication. But then we're going to move past that, and right at that point of access, we're going to evaluate the trustworthiness of that user's device and its security posture to see if it matches with the policies that you've configured in the administrative panel. With Duo, we're going to get some additional visibility, not just on the user's identity from that auth request, but some visibility from the endpoint, as well as the device that they're authenticating with, to decide whether or not you want to grant access. And only if they pass those tests will you grant them secure access to that application. So let's go back here and see what that remediation looks like in practice. Now when the user goes to log in, this banner at the bottom makes a little more sense. We're able to configure in the admin panel how up-to-date a user's browser is required to be, whether there's a grace period for them to complete an update if it is out of date, or whether they should be blocked. So here, this user is validating, but now they're being notified that their device is out of date. The orange banner means that they are within a grace period where they can still authenticate to the application, but it is telling them how to do that remediation so that they can actually make sure that they improve that device hygiene and bring it back up to date. Here's an example of where access is actually being blocked. A user's device is too far out of date, and so they are not being allowed to authenticate until they go through and complete that update. In this fashion, you're able to reduce the risk posed by devices that are out of date by requiring users to bring them up to date before being granted access to the application. Now, there's another step after this that will continue to develop as you build out your library in the admin panel of enrolled users, devices, applications, and policies, where you'll be able to establish what represents normal versus anomalous behavior, and it will allow you to set up access patterns that we'll go into in the deep dive so that you can identify anomalous authentication attempts and surface those more quickly for your users. Now, security is only as useful as it is applicable to your environment. And so I would encourage you to take a look at Duo's documentation page. We've got more than 180 named drop-in integrations, as well as general purpose or custom integrations available that will allow you to protect just about anything in your environment with a login. Now, join us for our deep dive session where we'll flip over and take a look at the admin panel and what goes into both configuring an application, setting up policy, and leveraging the advanced anomaly detection capabilities of Trust Monitor. Thanks for joining us for this product spotlight, and we hope to see you in our deep dive session soon. Have a great day, everyone.
Great presentation, Zoe. Thank you so much. And thank you, of course, to Duo. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone out there. Would you like to receive an invitation to the Duo Security Deep Dive session happening on Thursday? If you can't make it, no worries. You will get an email with a link to the recording. So I'll leave the poll question up for everyone to respond to while I announce our next iPhone prize winner. We've got another iPhone 12. This is going to Mark Hancock from South Carolina. Congratulations, Mark Hancock from South Carolina. So one more iPhone to give away on the Discovery Day event today. We got a lot of great feedback about the Duo security solution there in the questions box during the presentation. Some folks out there are using Duo already and already are seeing the value in it and really enjoying the Duo security solution and how it's improved their security posture. Yeah, if you don't see the poll, just push refresh on your web browser. I see someone who commented they are having trouble answering the poll. No worries, a refresh will resolve that. All right, thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll question. Let's go ahead and move on to our next presentation. I'm excited now to bring in Mr. Adam Margett, Technical Specialist at Unitrends. Always great to have you on, Adam. Take it away.
Everyone, and welcome to the Unitrends Day 1 as a part of Actual Tech's Discovery Days for streamlining, securing, and protecting cloud, IT, and business operations. My name is Adam Margett. I'm a member of the technical marketing team here at Unitrends, and I will be your host both for Day 1 and hope to see everyone on Day 2 as a part of this Discovery Days event. I think that our partners at Actual Tech do an absolutely phenomenal job, really keeping their finger on the pulse and understanding a lot of the challenges that organizations are going through today. And when we look at our agenda, I think we're going to talk a little bit before we talk about Unitrends, the new generation of threats and what's been the impetus to kind of reassess for a lot of organizations their current BCDR posture. We'll share with you a little bit about Unitrends, who we are as an organization, and the solutions that we are using to help our customers meet their overall data backup and recovery needs, as well as a little teaser in what you can expect from us on Day 2. Ultimately, there are a number of challenges that I think, regardless of industry vertical or the size of an organization, that IT pros are struggling with today. And it starts with just exponential data growth. The growth of data that IT is being asked to manage is growing 33 times faster than there are positions being actively created to fill it. So there becomes a huge gap in the amount that we're asking IT pros to do with very, very limited resources. At the same time, we're seeing a great adoption of new platforms. Nearly 60% of all IT workloads today are running in the cloud from 451. This represents about a 33% increase in year over year. And as we've started to shift to more cloud-delivered applications and services, we've spun up and started to enable a remote workforce. It's opened up a number of attack vectors for the black hats, and the cyber threat landscape is running absolutely rampant. The Bitdefender threat report found that last year, ransomware frequency increased more than 7-fold in terms of their attacks. I know that in the early days of the COVID-19 outbreak in, I think it was March or April of 2020, Phishing attacks were up nearly 600%. About 25% of all of those attacks contained more malicious payloads, such as a ransomware attack. But ultimately, we're finding that when it comes to managing backup and recovery, it's really fragmented. There are a lot of manual aspects when it comes to data backup and data recovery. Now, there are some solutions that are starting to automate scheduling. They'll allow you to set maybe policies based on backup frequency or your recovery point objective. They're starting to automate out testing, but to make sure that everything works, we've now got to protect on-premise data as well as data that's living in clouds and on endpoints and having to go through different screens, hopping into different products to solve these different problems. We're seeing it start to really consume people's day, a third, a quarter, 20% of your day, depending on the environment. And that can be a really significant expense, that babysitting backups, troubleshooting, some of those more manual aspects. And when we think about the expense, not just the sticker or what you're paying up front, but when you factor in the amount of time that you're spending managing it, it can become a huge drag on resources that are already spread really thin. Ultimately, at Unitrends, we're trying to provide a different way and kind of an alternative approach to data backup and DR. We've been in the space for a long time, originally founded in the late 80s, but really accelerating a lot of our growth and some of our development in new areas was our merger with Kaseya in 2018. As Kaseya is building out their IT Complete platform, looking for best of breed solutions in data backup, documentation, security, there are a tremendous amount of workflow integrations that we are building. 35% of all of our R&D efforts at Unitrends and Kaseya are going towards integrating these products on the platform in really meaningful ways, not just to give them a common look and feel. And we're not just talking about cosmetics, but one example might be the dark web monitoring module that built into our O365 protection. Not only do you have backup and restore for Office 365, you've got proactive monitoring on the back end for all of the domains and the users on your tenant to identify compromised accounts or compromised passwords. There's integrated anti-phishing defense as well. So we're starting to see these kind of holistic approaches to security, to data protection, as we're starting to build out this platform. Ultimately, we strive to deliver our users a complete solution stack from the technology that you're going to deploy locally in your data center or to protect your cloud apps, as well as through the backend infrastructure, the cloud support for long-term data retention, offsite safekeeping, and disaster recovery. We offer disaster recovery as a service hosting in the Unitrends cloud. We've got a proprietary cloud environment that we operate in a number of regions. You can see those on the map there, in which we can offer our customers that spin up and hosting of their most mission critical applications in the event of a disaster. But ultimately, regardless of whether you're having an issue with hardware, software, backup for endpoints, backup for virtual machines, you've got one support group to reach out to and to call to help you work through any issues that arise. With data being absolutely everywhere today and a lot of the complexity, we strive to offer our customers different ways or different approaches that are going to work best for them to back up their data no matter where it lives or regardless of what form it takes. Our flagship really begins with our hybrid cloud appliances, kind of the bread and butter of Unitrends solution stack, but we've got flexibility in how you can deploy, and that we've got a turnkey integrated hardware appliance, as well as a virtual appliance. You could deploy something like a VMware virtual appliance or Hyper-V virtual appliance on top of existing compute and storage resources. These appliances integrate with the cloud of your choosing to get data safely offsite and to help build out a strategy for DR. We're going to talk a little bit about some of those deployment options and kind of what that may look like. But we also have, as we alluded to earlier, direct to cloud or cloud to cloud backup for SaaS workloads, protection for Office 365, the G Suite, and Salesforce.com. Ultimately, we want to give you more granularity and control over these environments. There is a shared model of responsibility that's written into the SLAs or the licensing agreements for these cloud providers. Long story short, they're accounting for their mistakes, but they won't necessarily fix yours. So we want to give you that granularity and that control. And a lot of those native provider tools aren't necessarily going to be in line with the recovery point or recovery time objectives today. So that granular self-service recovery really helps to fill in some of those gaps. And lastly, we have a direct cloud backup, machine to cloud backup for edge data, roaming networks, your road warriors, your remote executives now now that are working from home ensure that they maintain productivity and compliance over data that's being generated on the endpoints with a lightweight agent. So there's no local appliance to manage. It's simply deploy the agent, pair that with an instance in the Unitrends cloud. The agent's been hardened to support reliable WAN backups so that you can protect those employees that aren't necessarily coming in and connecting their devices to corporate networks regularly. With regards to our hybrid cloud solution, some of the options that you have to deploy, again, it's going to start with that backup appliance on-premise at your backup site or at your primary location. Again, either hardware with our recovery series or software on top of existing resources with our Unitrends backup. We have support for over 250 versions of applications, operating systems, and hypervisors. So whether you're looking for kind of simple file protection for some more basic data and NAS devices, all the way through deep application level protection for things like Exchange, SharePoint, Oracle database, we've got you covered. We support virtual machine snapshots, VMware Hyper-V, and so on. In terms of building out a robust strategy, we support replication to a number of different targets. Typically, we're recommending copy to a local target, kind of a cost-optimized alternative, another storage device, or maybe removable media to create an air gap and provide that immutability over backups. We may also be using these for long-term retention. When it comes to optimizing recovery, we're replicating data to the DR site. This could be another Unitrends appliance that you're managing in an alternate location, our cloud with that disaster recovery as a service that I mentioned earlier, or a third-party cloud. You could deploy our virtual appliance from within the AWS or the Azure marketplace, both to protect running cloud instances or to serve as a replication target if you wanted to use a public cloud environment for DR. To help our customers combat the ever-evolving threat that is ransomware, we've taken a three-pronged approach to hardening our backup appliances. And it starts with a hardened Linux kernel. In addition to being less targeted, frequently less targeted than Windows machines, Linux affords us the advantage in that the hierarchical permissions model makes it very, very difficult for a threat actor to gain the level of root access that would be required to write or encrypt any changes to the backup repository, as long as security protocols and best practices are being adhered to. On the front end, in addition to securing the back-end kernel of the appliance, on the front end, we have a machine learning algorithm, an artificial intelligence that runs against every backup that we take. We establish baseline patterns of behavior for the environment that we are protecting. Your machines, looking at heuristics such as change rates, the rates of change, or the overall entropy, or the randomness of the data. When anomalies are spotted, it triggers an alert through our UI dashboard, email notifications, so you can take the right steps to investigate the source. If it is deemed that there is infection, you are confident in your recovery because you're using Unitrends Recovery Assurance to identify where you've got clean points of restore. Recovery Assurance, which we're going to show you in a deeper dive on day 2 for our portion, is the automated application level testing. You can orchestrate an incredibly thorough DR test with isolated boot groups, verifying credentials, and certifying underlying data or applications to prove recoverability as well as compliance. We're going to boil this down and show you some of the graphical reporting that you get as a part of this process, but it's tremendous, a lot more thorough and a lot deeper than something like a screenshot verification or a single machine boot. Ultimately, when we talk about these different approaches, we want to provide all of that information in one place so that you can easily drill down into the modules that you need. UniView is kind of that global portal in, and then you can easily address or drill down into managing your hybrid cloud appliances, your SaaS backup, or your direct to cloud backup. Ultimately, what we're starting to drive at is a complete and unified approach, being able to protect data in all locations, on-prem, clouds, remote devices, but not just on the backup side of things. As I alluded to earlier, as we start to expand into account takeover protection, phishing defense, human protection, being able to do that all in one place with one user and with one call to support it all, that's a big part of, we feel, the simplicity of being complete. We've talked a little bit about automation. We're going to show you more of that on Thursday, not just from the backups as well, but some of the things that we're doing to help automate the production environment and ensure that with all of the ways in which people are attacking environments and organizations today, that you have successful backups as that last line of defense. And from a price right perspective, not just that initial price tag, but also is it flexible or predictable. We talked to a ton of users about cloud, the unpredictability of those costs, kind of depending on how you implement it. And that's where our approach gets a little bit more specific around your data size and not how much that's going to be stored in the cloud. In addition, as you shift from one approach to the next, on-prem data is now moving to the cloud or O365, we've got the ability to future-proof that. There's a lot more to come, and we're still working on some of those things, but we're very, very excited. We hope to see you on day 2. The Unitrends Discovery Deep Dive will be on March 25th at 3:30 p.m. If you'd like to start the conversation sooner, feel free to drop us an email, info@unitrends.com, or visit us on the web at www.unitrends.com. And don't forget to check out our new rules of recovery in the attachment section of day 1 as well. Thank you, everyone.
Great presentation, Adam. Always good to have you on. Always an excellent presentation. Great news about how Unitrends can help a lot of companies out there with data protection and DR and ransomware challenges. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone to respond to. Would you like to receive an invitation to the Unitrends Deep Dive session happening on Thursday? Again, if you can't make it at that exact date and time, no worries. I know life in IT is busy. If you say yes, you will get an email with a link to the recording after the event so you can see the Unitrends solution in action. I'll leave up that poll question while I announce another iPhone 12 winner. All right, we have a grand prize for an iPhone 12. This is going to Lynn Cow from Missouri. Lynn Cow from Missouri, congratulations to you. We will reach out to you to deliver your iPhone 12. I will be posting all the prize winners' names there in the questions box for the entire event. If you haven't responded to the poll question, now's the time to do so, because I'm going to move on to one final poll on the event today now. And this is in case you missed it. Would you like to register for any of the following vendors' deep dive sessions taking place over the next 2 days? And so I'll leave this up and give everyone plenty of time to respond to it before I talk about another opportunity to win another prize, an Amazon, actually 5 Amazon $100 gift cards. All right, thank you to everyone who responded there to that poll. We do appreciate that. We'll make sure that you get invitations to all the upcoming deep dive sessions taking place over the next 2 days. Again, we'll send out a recording if you can't make any of those sessions live so that you can get the information that you need. Don't forget about the handouts tab there. It also has additional resources about all of the products and solutions that you learned about on the Discovery Day event today. After this event, you'll be automatically redirected to a poll question. Again, that poll question, or a survey, I should say, that survey is an IT operations survey we're doing, especially around monitoring and automation. It only takes 5 minutes to complete, and everyone who completes it will be entered to win one of 5 Amazon $100 gift cards. Again, you'll be automatically redirected to that, and I will do that here in just a moment. Before I go, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone out there in the Actual Tech Media audience for supporting us on today's Discovery Day event. I hope that you learned a lot. I hope that you learned about some really cool solutions to help you with your IT challenges. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. And look for those email invitations to the upcoming deep dive sessions happening across the next 2 days. I'll be moderating most of those, and I hope to see you there. Bye-bye.